Hello, everyone. Welcome to Generation Y Conservative. I'm glad that you could join the podcast tonight. We have a lot of stuff going on, and of course, it has given me a week to think about what the heck I'm going to say about this NFL protest while everyone else is giving their opinion over the course of the week. I actually have my podcast at the end of the week, so I get to take it all in, and it looks like I'm going to be pissing off a lot of people tonight on both sides, so we'll see how that ends up. Of course, this week's big topic will be the discussion on the NFL national anthem protests that were rampant this weekend. But if you are waiting for me to rail against the protesters and slap an "I stand for the anthem" frame on my profile picture, you may be waiting a while. I will be hitting the topic from more angles than you will see anywhere else and asking questions that people seem unwilling to ask. Also, Elon Musk is revealing his company's plans to send a crew to Mars and what that will look like. Apparently, the Democrats' best chance at taking the White House in 2020 relies on playing a double minority card. A whacked-out celebrity blogger is only more than willing to shell out his advice to pregnant Kylie Jenner about how it's in her best interests to abort her baby. But even the left is attacking him for his anti-choice remarks. Hugh Hefner died this week. No, not Stan Lee, just so you guys know. Thank God. We'll talk about his will and burial place, because that's going to be making the news a little bit this week in the rounds. You want to talk about Russia interfering with U.S. politics? Well, you may be shocked to find out that they were actually playing cards very far from a Trump hand during the election. We'll get into that. By the way, Weiner gets a timeout. We'll talk about that as well. Chuck Todd of NBC, MSNBC in this case, is in desperate need of a history lesson on the Constitution, and a school teacher decides to edit another founding document to be more gender neutral. So that'll be interesting. While America was focused on who was standing or kneeling, a terrorist walked into a church parking lot, shot and killed a woman, and then went into the church and started shooting indiscriminately. We'll start with all these topics tonight on the Generation Y Conservative podcast. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Generation Y Conservative podcast. Again, I'm glad that you could join me tonight. If you are tuning in for the first time because you follow Austin here on his SquareUpLineup page, you may be having a little bit of trouble with the feed. Don't worry, it's not your computer. It's my crappy internet connection. What I will tell you is that within the next following couple days, I will have an edited version up on YouTube, which I'll go over the social links in a second here. You can find the HD audio and video on there of the podcast, as well as some other places as well. In case you are following me right now on social media, you can find the live stream on Facebook every Thursday or Friday, depending on when my guests are available. Just go over to the Generation Y Conservative Facebook page, hit the follow button or like button, and then under the following button, you can get notifications to know when we do go live with this. You can also find me on YouTube by searching for the Generation Y Conservative. I encourage everyone to go there and subscribe, because not only do we do the podcast every week, and I split it up into kind of digestible clips and everything, you can also find movie reviews that I do on there as well. The most recent being the movie It that we reviewed, and that has a couple funny stories behind it that we talk about in the video as well. Let's see. On Twitter, you can follow along and interact with me there at Gen Y Conservative without the E on the end. Usually I'm more active in the morning as I'm between jobs and working and everything. But on Sundays, this podcast is actually re-aired in audio form on KLRN Internet Radio from 3 to 6 p.m. And they were gracious enough to also put me onto their iTunes. So if you search for the Generation Y Conservative on iTunes, it will say by KLRN Radio. But you can always subscribe to the podcast there and listen to it on the go as well. Before we get into everything, I want to introduce Austin and Chris. It'll be easy to remember that name tonight. Austin, I give the opportunity to people that do have other things going on. So you with your page and everything. So you've started your page, SquareUpLineup. So do you want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah, basically, SquareUpLineup is real simple. The mic's gone already. I didn't even move yet. The basis of SquareUpLineup really didn't come from anything that was too deep, the name anyway. The name came up with me and a few of my buddies hanging out, and somebody just looking at me and saying, I'm kind of sick of things, and I'm sick of this gang beatdown mentality we take. I wish people would just either, square up or line up with things. And it kind of clicked in my head. I was like, I'm gonna hold on to that. That's gonna come in handy later on in life. Well, basically I went through a lot of crap this past year, and I got to a place where it was like, I'm gonna either keep doing the same thing I've always done, getting the same thing I always got, or I'm gonna, do the proverbial Steve Harvey jump, if you will.
Yep.
So I jumped and
Speech.
took a jump, and it was a great speech. But I jumped, and we started Square Up or Lineup. And those of you guys who follow me, you know what it's about. We're not out necessarily we're not out bashing anyone or anything like that. We're just trying to say that, every day of your life, be the best person you could be, And there's certain things that you need to do to be that person. And standing still and just complaining and carrying on isn't going to get it done. We got to grab followers. We got to raise awareness and show people, hey, this year, this is how we're going to get better. If we want to heal as a nation, per se, it starts with you. It doesn't start with you complaining about everybody else. That doesn't fix it.
Being triggered by things?
Yeah, triggered. If anybody has a complaint on that, it should be me, and I don't. I don't get triggered easy.
So what's you talk about what you do on your page and everything.
Yeah.
What's your goal? What do you want to end up? What do you want your page to end up doing?
Well, our eventual goal for everything all said and done is, like I said, right now we're working on growth. All right, and obviously you need to build the following, but we want to eventually do this on a larger scale. You know what I mean? We want to be able to do talks. We want to be able to run events. We want to be able to show people, hey, we're gonna stand. We're gonna make a difference. We're constantly constructing a better us, which allows us to construct a better society. You put a better person out there every day. And the nice part about it is, and I say this all the time, the people who follow me are so vast. There's not it's like this. Everybody who follows me has, the USA headband on and is driving a jacked up pickup truck, and it's not like I have people who the people who follow me. I guess I'd have to say is we all know we're flawed. None of us, we all know we're not perfect and we've made horrible mistakes along the way, but we're working to better us. And I think that's our main objective at the end of the day isn't so much a monetary thing or a, popularity thing as it is to continue to put a better person out every day and to pass that message along whichever direction, north, south, east, west. We just want things to get better on the whole,
So if people want to follow along with you, if they're tuning in for the first time seeing you on this side of the equation, where can they follow you and what social media platforms are you on?
Just go to Square Up or Lineup. You can find us on Facebook, and we just started doing YouTube and stuff like that. So we're at a position now where we're advancing a little quicker than I thought things were going to go initially. And that's a credit to all of you, by the way. Thank you so much. I tell you all the time, I'm very proud of you. But it's amazing how quick things move. But we have a YouTube right now, we have an Instagram, and we have the Facebook page being the main thing. And Square Up or Lineup, that's it. It's easy.
Last video I saw that you had up was on the NFL protests.
Yeah, I went nuts.
Was that the last one, or was there more?
No, that's the last one. Okay. That one was good for this week.
Okay. And you can say what you want to say about yourself if you don't want to get too personal, since...
Nah. My name's Chris, and obviously I don't have the social media presence of Austin and Chris, but you can follow me on Twitter at Team Lal, TEAMLAL. I tweet a couple times a week, whatever my thoughts are for the day. So
wisdom nuggets.
Absolutely. So Austin asked me to come on and maybe speak a couple words with you guys. So a lot of hot topics out in today's news. So
do you follow along with politics and stuff?
A little bit here and there. I don't get into political.
I'm just going to throw humorous topics at you left and
that
right.
works.
So if you can laugh along, both of you, that's where it's going to be at.
Chris is my brother-in-law. Chris is my moral compass in life. He's kept me out of jail for the last 7 years. Got me to a point where I am now.
That's why he has a taser hanging off
exactly.
Exactly.
That and the bear mace in the other hand.
All right, so getting back to everything at hand here, this month's, in case you're tuning in for the first time, we actually spotlight a charity for an entire month to get people involved in different causes and everything. We've been spotlighting one for the entire month of September now, which is Mercury One. Now, the great thing about Mercury One is we actually started this when the Hurricane Harvey hit in Houston. I'm sorry. And
Are you an
they were
Eagles
down
fan?
there. What's that?
Are you an Eagles fan?
I am.
Yeah, you just wish you'd hit Dallas. I hear you. I see where you're going.
Oh, just wait till later.
I see what you did there.
Just wait till later. Now, what's neat about them is they're actually located in Dallas. Okay, that's where I was going with that. And they send immediate help down to semi-truckloads full of food and supplies down to the Houston area, and we're helping out immediately. As soon as everything happened in Florida, they started sending trucks out there. They were sending things out to the wildfires out west, which was barely even talked about. They were happening everywhere.
Yeah.
They might still be happening. I'm not even sure. Right now, they are starting to help out with Puerto Rico, and that's a crazy situation. If you're not following along with that in the news right now, supplies are going to Puerto Rico, and there's literally a supply mountain at the airport because they have no cell phones to communicate with people on the island. There's no reception. There's no power. There's all these supplies are piling up right now, and they have nobody to drive trucks to go there and actually bring it to the people. So now they're starting to figure out that they need to start sending helicopters in and taking those supplies into the neighborhoods and trying to get them out there. It's very bad. It's a very bad situation in Puerto Rico right now. And, Mercury One is actually there to help. The one thing that I really like about Mercury One and other spotlights charities I spotlight often is I try to pick out charities that don't misuse their funds that they're given, okay, and abuse it. A lot of times you'll run into big organizations. I won't mention names. One begins with an R and ends with Ed Cross. That only puts a certain amount towards the charity, right? It's a small portion and everything, and then the rest goes to extravagant things for the people to stay in like luxury hotels.
Absolutely.
And stuff while they're helping out. In this case here with Mercury One and other ones that I spotlight, they actually put 100% of the proceeds towards the funds that are available to help out. And then once a year, they hold a gala event that's a fundraiser where they actually pull in big names and people with deep pockets and hold a fundraiser to pay off the administrative costs. And that's specifically for that. So I think that's a really cool thing. Mercury One is the charity that's spotlighted this month. If you're interested in learning more, I don't know if they have any volunteership opportunities, but you can always go to their website, mercury1.org, and check that out if you're interested. So, are you guys all set?
Absolutely.
Just so you know, you could calm your nerves a little bit. We won't get to the NFL thing until the last topic because that's our main topic for tonight.
Fine.
So we'll start off with some science. So according to space.com, SpaceX's owner, basically, Elon Musk, and Lockheed Martin announced on yesterday, that an updated Mars plan. So they're planning on going to Mars. Have you guys heard about any of the details on this?
Yes.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Elon Musk is this guy that just has this visionary outlook on everything. And it's kind of like you said. I mean, you want to talk about someone that jumps. He forgets the bungee cord. He just goes for it. You know what I mean? So he just goes.
What parachute?
Yeah, exactly. So Lockheed's idea centers on a 6-person space station, which company representatives have said could be orbiting the red planet by 2028 or so. So around there. I think Elon Musk is talking about getting out there even sooner than that. The astronauts aboard this Mars base camp could perform a variety of valuable scientific and exploration work, from operating rovers in near real time on the surface to scouting out spots for future crewed landings. So if we jump back in time a little bit here, last year at the IAC meeting, Musk unveiled SpaceX's planned interplanetary transport system, the ITS, which is a huge reusable rocket ship combo designed to help establish a 1 million-person city on Mars in the next 50 to 100 years. At that point in time, the one that he was talking about was actually 40 feet wide, booster, which would feature 42 Raptor engines and be more than twice as powerful as NASA's Saturn V moon rocket. Saturn 10, right. So the ITS spaceship, meanwhile, would be capable of carrying a minimum of 100 people to the red planet. Now, since that, actually this morning, I wrote the script last night. Did you guys hear the size of this ship that they're planning on launching off?
Mm-mm.
40 stories high.
Amazing.
I mean, it's like watching a
shooting building into space. Literally.
I know the big thing was where their price range is per person is some crazy number like $1 million to $10 million, and Elon was saying within the next 10 years, he's hoping down to get it to like 100K a person. So, I mean,
what's 100K among friends?
But if you think about it, I mean, if you're going, so from what I read today was that the journey out there is about 6 to 9 months. Just a 3 month window.
It's called a tour where I'm from.
Yeah. So he's planning this 6 to 9 month journey out there, a year to a year and a half stay, and then a 6 to 9 month journey back is what the initial cruise will take. Okay, to their deployment, I guess you could say.
You're deploying to Mars.
Yeah. So it's pretty interesting. I mean, it's pretty crazy that
it's going to take a handful of committed people to convince. I mean, the hardest thing is going to be to convince people to actually do it.
If I was single, didn't have kids or anything, I'd be there. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Let's be honest, that's the excuse for all of us for not doing things. If I was single, had no kids, responsibility.
No, I mean, to be a part of that, though.
Yeah.
To be a part of that kind of history.
Yeah.
I don't know what's the worst that can happen. It blows up in the air.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the worst that could happen.
I've
seen it a few times, actually.
Yeah.
The numbers aren't real good when you look at them statistically.
Exactly.
I don't like flying to Florida, so a 6 month flight for me is probably not in the cards.
The seating sucks. I can't even put up my feet here.
We're out of peanuts.
Yeah. The flight attendants have been in cryostasis for way too freaking long. Okay, so I had to throw this article in here because it's been kind of getting a lot of attention on the page over the last 24 hours. I posted an article about Target, and I said, if you're a fan of shopping at Target, be careful because shuffling through the holiday sweaters this season may trigger you into a meltdown. So Target received backlash for selling a Christmas sweater that some say mocked people with obsessive compulsive disorder. And what I'm going to do here is actually throw up that picture for you. There you go. It's kind of hovering in between us all right now. So the store received criticism from customers who felt the sweater, which had the phrase obsessive Christmas disorder written on the front, belittled the mental disorder. And this one, the Twitter user that posted the picture that you're seeing right now, said, as someone with OCD, I'd really appreciate it if you didn't sell my illness as a fashion statement. And this was Rain Murphy, who tweeted this statement along with her photo holding up the sweater. So, I mean, you've already seen the picture. I quickly showed you earlier and everything. You know, we got into a little discussion. One guy actually said that in the military, there were some guys sitting in the military hospitals with blown off arms and legs, and they had shirts on that said, I had a blast in Afghanistan or something like that. And they're like making fun of their own stuff, you know. I personally, you know, when I was 26, I had cancer. You know, I had lymphoma. And if you can't joke around about these types of things and have a positive attitude, you're going to be a miserable person living with it for the rest of your life, you know? And I dropped 60 pounds from the chemo and everything, and I kept on going into seeing people, and they're like, oh my gosh, you look, you know, you've lost a lot of weight. I'm like, yeah, I'm on a great diet plan called Slimfoma. You know what I mean? I joked about this stuff all the time, and if you can't joke about it, like, you're gonna die a miserable person. That's all I gotta say. Especially if it's a major illness or a major thing that you're dealing with.
It's true. I mean, I said it today. I said it when I was talking to him. Even when I said it to you, I said, I mean, I got PTSD. But if somebody put, like, you know, that's pre-Thanksgiving stress disorder, I'd be like, yeah, you're right. Because I don't want to see half those people there anyway, man. You're, like, whatever. You got to be able to joke about the problems you have in life. If you're going to sit there, and here's what happens. We give ourselves... this lady here, she has OCD, and she's...
Oh, don't call her a lady. I don't know what she identifies as.
Yeah. What are you thinking?
True story. And whoever it may, to whom it may concern. All right. Yeah. my anonymous letter to you. Yeah. But like, honestly, she sits there and she's complaining and getting herself all worked up over her OCD problem. Congratulations, you've just been diagnosed with anxiety. Like, you're creating your own problems at some point. One point, you just turn it off and just say, all right, this is just too much. If you don't like it, I mean, I'm sure that wasn't the only shirt they were selling there.
Oh no.
Like, I'm not even a Target fan.
I was thinking about this the other day. I'm like, how is the, you know, sensitivity toward these topics exponentially increased over the last, I don't know, 5 to 8 years? Because I feel
allow it. Huh? Because
but it's like, why is it here in the last 5 to 8 years, but it wasn't 10 to 15. Like I was in high school, it's like this stuff wasn't like you wouldn't see something like this like making news. But why in the last all of a sudden 5 to 8? Like what changed that all of a sudden everybody's sensitive to pretty much anything, and and you're a bigot if you just disagree with anyone. So it's like it's crazy. So I just don't know how that pattern made that transition.
I wish I could pinpoint it. Honestly, I do. I think it's been a generational thing of, people like me always keep on coming back to the fact that we were a generation raised up, probably the last generation that tinkered on the edge of real trophies versus participation trophies, and the helicopter parents that had to watch over everything.
It's a whole nother day, participation trophies.
And it's, I think we gotten to the point where it's just, you have to cater to everyone and pamper them, or, if someone feels uncomfortable at all, it's the end of the world, and it's just pretty bad. It's bad.
I don't know if that's anything I've ever really, identified with, that cater to everyone thing. I mean, you've known me for a good amount of time now. You've known me damn near my whole life. And that's just not the way, even the way I was raised. Like my dad, he was my football coach growing up, my sports coach growing up. If I sucked, he told me, dude, you suck today. Get better, better yourself. And that's a lot of what I do, where it comes from, was being raised to get better. You know what I mean? Like, always better yourself. Don't sit around and wait for somebody. Why should I praise you for failing when the kid next to you is not? Even my own daughter. Yeah, okay, you messed up. I'm like, okay, kid, well, you know what we got to do now? Not go play on your iPad. Now we got to do more math, or we got to do more of this. Like, we have to better society. But we have to be strong enough as adults with our, I take it upon myself when I look at my daughter, and like you all have kids, I look at the caliber of human being I've been given recently, and when I look at my daughter, I'm like, no way is that happening with you. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm going to turn this around one kid at a time if I have to. I'll start with my own. You know what I mean?
It's how old's your oldest?
8.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because ours were in daycare
together.
And I mean, look, I'm one of those people that I refuse to be the person that said, why is my kid being taught this in school? And why this, why that in school? Before they even hit school, I got elected to the school board. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to go over the curriculum and everything. And I moved back into this area because of our school district being so great. And unfortunately, while the school district here is great, it's the federal mandates coming down on the educational system, no matter where you are, that are completely messing it all up. And these kids are left in the dust either way. They have this blanket mentality of, let's teach everyone the same way instead of focusing on individual needs. So instead they take the average student in the classroom and cater to those kids. And then the ones that are too slow at learning, they're getting left behind. And the kids that are excelling are bored to death in the back of the classroom, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Promotion of mediocrity at its finest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unreal.
Now back to this person here. Just so you know, it's a sad story actually. They didn't say, but apparently it took her about 25 minutes to put the sweater back into place and. And her original meltdown started over the fact that the price tag was $24.96 instead of an odd number that equal on taxes.
The funny thing about sensitivity we were talking about earlier, when Austin told me the story, I thought she was mad because it said Christmas on there.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm like,
another one for you.
Well, yeah. So
absolutely.
It's funny.
You don't even know which way to go with that one. You're like, well, which part of it is she angry over?
Nope. Yeah.
There's so many things she could be angry over right now. Go ahead, have at it. It's only a shirt. At the end of the day, it's only cloth. Don't worry. I'm sure the cotton didn't come from Hobby Lobby.
Well, we're 5 years away from Target not being able to put Christmas on sweaters.
Target. Not to get into a completely different topic and go down this rabbit hole. I don't even want to touch it right now. But Target took a huge loss in stocks when they announced the bathroom deal that you could use whatever bathroom that you identify with and everything. People just boycotted it, and stocks dropped, and they thought that this is temporary because everybody loves Target. It's going to bounce right back. It did not. It stayed down. But I have to say I like Target's response on this case here because they actually responded to the backlash with an apology, but it stopped itself short of removing the item from the stores. So this is the best part. They said, "We never want to disappoint our guests, and we apologize for any discomfort." So this is Josh Thomas, a spokesman for Target. He told this to New York Daily News. "We currently do not have plans to remove this sweater." So it's just like, we're sorry, but get over it. Because actually it's selling like hotcakes. And you just helped us out with the marketing.
Thank you.
That's true.
That's a win-win.
Yeah. So Target was previously at the center of a similar controversy involving selling a woman's t-shirt with the word trophy on the front. And that shirt inspired a successful petition for its removal. So it did end up being removed. But the petition itself said the truth is that millions of women and young girls are taken as trophies every year in war, sex trafficking, slavery, and rape. Labeling any person as a trophy is demeaning their humanity and objectifying them as a tangible object that can be bought, used, and disposed of. Now, first of all, that's true. Okay, all that stuff is true. And actually, as a matter of fact, there's more slaves today than there ever was before. And it has a lot more to do with sex slavery and kids being bought and sold out to that and everything. It's a horrible situation. By the way, check out OUR, Operation Underground Railroad, another charity that we've spotlighted in the past that helps out with that. But
Project AK-47
that's not what we're talking about here. You know what I mean? What we're talking about here is women that love the attention and humor of being labeled a trophy wife.
Yeah, there's
or a trophy girlfriend. And that's probably why they didn't specify wife on it or girlfriend or anything. They just left it at trophy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I mean, that's true. I mean, and that's another thing that we've done as a society. Like, we've allowed that to be okay. Yeah. I don't want my daughter to ever think that. I mean, I preach that hard that, I mean, it don't ever disrespect yourself. Like, if your only goal is to aspire to be a trophy wife in life, like, what kind? Like,
sorry, Leslie.
No.
she actually literally, I read this statement to her before. She's like, I totally want to be a trophy wife. She's like, just make the money. I'll do whatever. I stay home.
There it is. That's a societal thing. What are you so angry about? Like, you either want it or you don't.
Yeah.
Pick a side. You can't ride down the middle of that fence. Oh, the friend's my friend, so I'm going to be offended. You're either offended by it or you're not. But at the same time, don't be the person that's offended by it. And it's like, I'm going to marry a doctor. Yeah, you know what I mean?
And we're going to get to it in the NFL thing. I say there's only two people that write the book of your life. And we'll get to that later on. But you know what I mean? Don't let someone else's crap write your story on how you are offended by something or how you're going to react.
No. You know? Charge your own life. Own it.
Oh, boy, guys. Here we go. But before we get any further into this, because now we're going to hit the fan. Any more on this Target stuff at all?
No, I mean, what do you say about that at the end of the day? I don't even know what you're angry about.
It's like, I don't know what it's like to have I'm guessing there's very different levels of OCD, like we talked about before we started.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, I have OCD to some extent. I mean, it's not, is it really a disease that can be attacked more than like as having something actually serious? Right. Is it? I don't know. I mean,
here's what I will tell you. It actually reminded me of a story. When I was in college, I was a server at Cracker Barrel, and there was it's a sad story. This guy came in. He never had friends or family with him or anything, and he had extreme. I'd never seen OCD so bad. And he would walk in, he'd sit down, and he'd sit at the table, and he'd constantly arrange his silverware and everything just right with his coffee cup and everything. And then as he's like getting done with everything, he would spend about 45 minutes going around to all the tables, making sure all the sugar packets are facing the same way, that all the colors were in the right order and everything. And he'd organize everything. He could not leave that room unless it was like that. And we didn't even pay him for it. He was a great employee.
I think the most important thing to state about that is it's not like we're sitting here saying that OCD isn't, an issue.
Right,
and for some people, it's definitely an issue. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is if you have time to take pictures of your OCD at Target, you're not that OCD about things. Like that's one of those. In my mind, that's one of those.
A picture frame.
Like, yeah, I know. I'm like looking at it, I'm like, that's one of those attention schemes where you just want to make a big stink about something. Like, if you have the OCD, like you said, you'd be sorting the sweaters. You won't be pulling them out. Look what these guys did. Like, come on.
Yeah, look, there's a certain portion of society that's out there that can't get through the day unless they find something to be offended by. This is what we were talking about before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Culture news.
Wonderful.
Hugh Hefner, known for his Playboy empire, died this week. So Hugh Hefner's wife, Crystal Harris, will inherit nothing. Did you hear about this?
No.
No? Due to
Didn't even know he had a wife. How?
Oh yeah. Due to an ironclad prenup, that means she was never added to his will, and Hugh insisted that he didn't care. This is a different thing. Hugh insisted that he didn't care about the 60-year difference between them. Yeah.
Naturally,
like he would have a problem with it.
Probably a trophy wife.
How many kids does he have?
He has 4 kids.
So I'm guessing they're getting all of it then.
Yeah, it's getting split up amongst them. It was actually $43 million in estate, not including the $100 million that they got from the house. Or I'm sorry, the mansion.
Yeah.
Where there was a disease outbreak in the hot tub, and
Shocking.
Cosby was there, so who knows what else was going on. Certainly wasn't dipping it in the pudding.
Sure, everything was on the up and up.
Yeah. So as I was saying,
down and out.
Instead, his estimated $43 million estate will be divided between his 4 children, the University of Southern California, and a list of charities.
There's a good place to send your money. USC. Okay.
I would love to know what these charities are, too.
This is dirtier than the hot tub.
Oh, my gosh. The number doesn't take into account the Playboy Mansion, which was sold in 2016 for $100 million.
Who bought that? Why?
So the Playboy founder died of natural causes at the age of 91 on Wednesday night. And I'm just hearing through the grapevine that apparently his last request was clear my browser history. Hugh will be buried next to the magazine's very first cover star. You guys know who that is? Come on.
Marilyn Monroe.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's just.
Man, I hope your wife sees that.
That's common. I mean, that's Joe DiMaggio.
I'm a Marine. I'm sitting here going, I don't know.
Everybody knows.
No, I didn't.
I'm shocked you don't know that.
I'm shocked you do.
So he's going to actually be buried next to Marilyn Monroe. Okay. Hef bought the plot next to Monroe at Westwood Village Memorial Park in Los Angeles 25 years ago for $75,000 was the plot that he bought. Right.
Wow.
So Monroe graced the cover of the pioneering periodical's inaugural 1953 edition, and also appeared nude inside, obviously.
Shocking.
Yeah. Who would have guessed?
In Playboy? This isn't good housekeeping.
Buried next to Marilyn Monroe. So who's throwing the last bone there? Hefner was considered an American legend, but not exactly for being a good person. Sure, young men everywhere looked up to him for having the coolest gig there is, but when you get to be an adult, you kind of realize what a creep the old dude was.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty bad. Every time they had those parties and everything, you're looking at just the crowd showing up there, and well, Bill Cosby was among them. So
there's a lot of.
How many wives did he have? I don't even know.
I want to say 3.
3?
I'm pretty sure it was 3.
I'm pretty sure it was a pretty open relationship.
Yeah. And that's actually what he was praised for, was his views on abortion, being pro-choice, the sexual revolution ideas that he had, obviously, and something else too. I forget exactly what it was. But obviously the guy was known for his empire. We'll just leave that.
Yeah.
So
Shocked he wasn't pro-life.
yeah, you really thought.
Did not see that coming. Totally blindsided.
While we're talking about creeps, celebrity blogger Perez Hilton, and speaking about pro-life in this case, stated in an online video that Kylie Jenner, who's one of the Kardashians, obviously, should abort her baby. I don't follow her, but at the same time, but the thing is, this whole situation is disgusting, especially when you're out there with as many followers as these people have, you know? So according to the Daily Wire, shortly after news broke that 20-year-old celebrity Kylie Jenner became pregnant by her boyfriend Travis Scott, celebrity blogger and all-around troll Perez Hilton advised that she should abort her baby instead of keeping it. In a YouTube video posted over the weekend, Hilton said that if Jenner were his daughter, he would pressure her into having an abortion because she is too young and would be a bad mother, therefore rendering the child better off dead. His exact words here were, "I truly believe if I were Kris Jenner, the best option for Kylie and her future and for that child would have been for her to abort the baby. And I would say the same thing to my daughter if she were to get pregnant under similar circumstances. Her age, not a stable relationship, her just being totally unfit to be pregnant, in my opinion." At another point, he also said, "I love life. I love babies. If I were Kris Jenner, I would tell that girl to get an abortion."
And if I were to say to Perez, why wouldn't adoption be a better option?
Well, that's the question I ask almost on a weekly basis on that.
I've never gotten a good answer to that one. Well, we couldn't live with ourselves. Oh, but you can murder it, so
Yeah.
that makes more sense.
Abortion is a big issue on this show that I cover a lot.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where, like, when you look at it from a whole, and you look at it for how many people we have in this nation doing whatever it is they do, we know we're not angels here. You know what I mean? But the fact that there was times, yeah, well, I know I'm not. I stand on that platform of failure. But my thing is when you look at it on a whole, like the whole thing, we have all these people in this nation that we want to go do our own thing. We're proving it right now. Everybody wants to do their own thing or stand for their own thing. The problem is our nation as a whole doesn't want to take responsibility for the consequences of our actions at the end of the day. And I mean, I'll be the first one to say, when I found out I was having a kid, I was scared out of my mind. I didn't know what to do. Did the thought go through my head? Yeah, it did. Did I? No, I wised up. It was like, dude, you can't do stuff like that. And look, that child is what turned my whole life around.
Yep.
That child is what, like, I sat down and I remember when she came out, she grabbed my little finger and everything in me was like, you can't be the same pile of crap you were before. Like, somebody's depending on you now. You know what I mean? And I feel like if people would stop using abortion as birth control and would take responsibility for their actions that one time, you would have a much better world on your hands, because you have a world full of loving parents instead of, disobedient, arrogant little snots who think they can go and just take a pill and fix every mistake they make. Here, I hate to tell you this, at the end of the day, and this is the one that kills me, at the end of the day, I was drunk is not a reason to sit there and say, I don't want to take responsibility. That child didn't get drunk to make that choice for you. Yep. You did. Now own it. And that's where I'm going to leave that. Do I think, am I always, pro-life about things? No. If you're raped, I understand how that could cause you continuous traumatic and having to go through that. If you're, a victim of incest, sex trafficking, like we were talking about, there's some extenuating circumstances where I can see where that is going to cause the mother a ton of mental harm and discord and lead to other problems, suicide, something along that line. There's a lot of lead in there. But I'm telling you, at the end of the day, it is not a birth control method. And that is what our society has made it. We have made it.
Unfortunately, we have gotten to a point where if you look back at the hippie revolution, right, and everything that was going on back then, right before the Reagan era, or I guess in the beginning stages of, it got to that too, we had this whole sexual revolution thing where free love and all this sleeping around and everything, and you could literally watch the statistics of STDs and everything else just skyrocket from that, right? And we're actually starting to see the same thing now. I can't tell you how many people I personally know that are talking about or entertaining the idea, that's the word I was looking for, of open relationships, that's okay because they love each other and it just spices things up for them and everything. And it's like, no. What it's doing is you're not actually in love. What you're doing is you're trying to satisfy these urges that you have from any possible source that you can get because you've gotten bored with a certain part of that person. That's what it does come down to. And when you talk about marriage and stuff like that in an open relationship, if you have an open relationship and you still want to get married to the person, that's the slippery slope that we've always been talking about with marriage between a man and a woman, and like going down this road of everything, of just opening it completely up. Well, now I have a personal friend that is getting married, that has an open relationship. I'm like, don't get married. There's no reason to, because marriage is a commitment. You know what I mean? And if you can't commit to that person, it's completely open, then what the heck is going on? But my point that I'm trying to get back to actually here is the fact that the sexual revolution is actually starting to happen again. Okay, and we're starting to witness it, and we're starting to see this rampant kind of disease stuff start to take off again. The only hope I have is taking a look at younger generations, and when you actually look at them, there's a lot more that are abstaining from sex for longer periods of time until their late teens, early 20s, or even marriage in some cases. There might be signs of a religious revolution coming back and everything. Younger kids being more involved in the church and everything. And there's also more of a bent towards conservatism because they're watching our generation be complete idiots on the streets doing these stupid protests, being offended by everything, and tearing down statues by hooking up the truck just because they wanted to skip a step of
that's not my generation
or anything like that. It's right below us.
That's not my generation. I do not claim them.
Oh no! Well, you have to, unfortunately, but you have to stand out. You have to stand apart from them as an example of we're not all like that.
I did a big thing about that the other day, and it's not the thing is we sit there and we say a generation. It's not the whole generation.
No.
And I think that's a big thing that we need to address, that we immediately want to sit there and say, oh, well, millennials, or oh, well, this. Well, I mean, I have millennials that follow me that are solid. I had one guy come to me the other day, he sent me a message, and it was probably some of the most solid stuff I've ever seen out of someone in his so-called millennial age bracket. I think it's important for us to realize that just because we have majority of people doing, I attribute it to the same thing as Iraq. 95% of those people wanted peace, wanted to be able to do their own thing and just, live a happy life. There was 5% of them that was so screwed up they were messing up for everybody else. Yep. I feel like the generation is the same way. I feel like the most part of them are trying to get a good education, get a job, do good things, be a positive part of society. There's 5% of them that are so epically left-wing jacked up.
Yeah.
That they are black. If I was that generation referred to as the millennials,
that's why I go by Generation Y.
I would be so pissed off with the other people blacking my eye like that. Think about it. Who's your employer? Your employer is probably older than you, the person hiring you, right? Probably from their 40s, 50s, something like that. You have to walk in there, and all you have to do at this point is present your date of birth, and they're like, millennial.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh, this one's not going to work. Because that's the stigma, that 5%. Stick up for yourself. Don't make us do it for you. You know what I mean? So, that's enough on that. But, that drives me insane. I can't stand that. It's mind-blowing me.
So, we're actually talking about Perez Hilton here.
Who's he?
Yeah. He's a celebrity blogger. He's... I
rest my case.
Yeah, exactly.
If you know and I don't, I'm doing something right.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
Unfortunately, I follow along with all this.
I don't know that guy.
I'm not a fan of this, obviously.
That's what you do.
He was. I honestly don't remember the last time he was in the news. He always makes the news for saying something stupid. But this is just an example of off the deep end in my mind.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But Hilton himself actually faced severe backlash because of his willingness to, quote, pressure his daughter, and they were saying that eliminates a choice in the equation, and some were calling the comments beyond disgusting, and someone also said, why are you telling a woman what to do with her body? How's it feel?
Yeah.
to be the one on the receiving end of those comments and everything, right? Oh, I know that Austin here was actually really looking forward to this topic tonight. So, do you happen to be dealing with a downright a-hole-ish person in your life right now?
Could have wrote this one.
So, a Stanford professor, Robert Sutton, has just written a book called The A-Hole Survival Guide. And I'm not saying the whole word, obviously. And it's just for you to check out, right?
Yeah.
Not just you, I'm saying to the people. But according to the Daily Mail, Robert Sutton has spent more than 10 years of his career studying a-holes and how people can get rid of them from their lives and workplaces. While these types of people can thrive in a workplace, it can be difficult for them to get work done after they have belittled everyone around them. Sutton recommends people to increase physical distance from these people to avoid exhibiting similar behavior. And he goes into what kind of a-holes there actually are. So there are 4 types of jerks, and Sutton has a 3-step tactic to avoid them. The 4 types in this world are the Machiavellian.
I'm just watching your mouth right now. And I can tell you're directing this at me.
No, I'm not.
Hey, do these sound familiar to you?
Well, you can tell me which one.
I'll let you know which one I am if you like. I'm probably a mix of about all 4 of them.
So Machiavellianism in modern psychology is someone that is focused on self-interest and personal gain. These people take pleasure in someone else's pain as it helps them reach their own goals in life. Sutton described this person as nasty to a person's face and not afraid to show that behavior. The Machiavellian type doesn't hide from their behavior. Instead, they embrace it because they think it is what is helping get them to where they want to be. So they take advantage of it, basically.
Yeah.
They embrace it.
It's called a bully.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that fits that description.
That was me. Want to keep going?
Let's
Want to end it here?
Let's see. Dude, maybe transitioned. You're transitioning a-hole, yeah? So we have the backstabber. This, I think, probably lends more to the opposite sex. I'm just going to throw it out there because guys, it's typical with guys' situation is like if you're really that pissed off at someone, you go at it, you have a beer, you're done. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So the backstabber. The backstabber is more strategic about how, and we don't think about things through. So it's not us. It's I'm going to throw that out there. About how they're an a-hole to others because they don't always want to be portrayed as one. They are more strategically competent a-holes, Sutton said. They kiss up and knock down people around them. Sutton said that backstabbers can be the most dangerous because they pretend they are on your side for as long as possible before they no longer need you.
I feel like the backstabbing in the a-hole is pretty much the worst one you could get right there.
Well, let's keep going. The night is young on this one. The purposefully oblivious. So this person acts as if they don't know someone when they actually do. Instead of acknowledging a person, they pretend that they have no idea who they are in order to belittle them as much as possible. This type of a-hole might not think they are being one because they aren't saying anything, but their lack of acknowledgement speaks volumes. Sutton explained that power can make people feel like they are above others and therefore think they are allowed to behave this way. Hierarchy.
I was going to say, have you ever worked for someone before? That's your boss.
You're absolutely right.
That is your boss.
Oh, I can name names right now on the... Not my current boss. Actually, my current boss is awesome, but...
my last job, I had to be the first one to get that guy's attention. I don't know if this is fair.
I'll actually tell you a funny story. I almost feel like it falls squarely into a millennials type of mentality and everything, but I felt I totally deserved it the way I approached it. My boss at one point in time, and I won't say where it was, I brought my part of the company from $35,000 a year in revenue to over $250,000. And that was the reason through those steps I became the manager of that department. Right? And this new person came in without a background even in this type of job. And she just belittled me at every opportunity and just made my job increasingly difficult. At one point in time, she restructured the commission structure I was on that was already signed over that I was on, right? And essentially cut a quarter of my yearly salary off from me, right? And when it came time, I had to get out of there. I was just under so much stress all the time coming home from it. And when I went in to quit, we went in for it was her and the COO who I actually got along with very well. I was actually hoping that he could just pull me under his wing and not have to, I wouldn't have to deal with her.
What was her title?
She was the president.
President, okay.
Yeah. And when I sat down, I literally looked at her across the table. I put my phone down. And I said, I'm recording this conversation. And she said, why would you do that? I said, because I don't trust you to tell the owner of this company what went down here and why I'm quitting and my exit report on this, my exit interview. And she's like, well, why don't you trust me? I looked at her, I said, really? You know what I mean?
Is that right?
On, really? And I said, here's what we're going to do. You're going to sit there and keep your mouth shut while I tell you why exactly I'm leaving. And I'm going to tell you everything on why I'm leaving, go through numbers and show you everything so that he hears it, the owner hears it, and everything else. I don't want you to open your mouth. And when I'm done, I'm just going to get up, take my things, and go out to my car. It's already packed up with all my stuff. You know, and that probably was a pretty typical millennial thing to do as far as like, you know, trying to grasp that hierarchy and pull yourself up just to be a jerk about it. But it was kind of good payback. I don't
think that's like a typical millennial thing to do. I think that's just people. Like, it's one of those things where, to me, that's standing up for yourself. Like, at the end of the day, if you take so much crap, like, eventually somebody, I got friends that I look at that I'm like, I don't want to be the guy that's eventually gonna bust that dude's bubble because he's gonna someone up real bad. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Here's a crazy thing. On my door, it said manager of blank department because I don't want to give away where I was working at the time. And in that meeting, I said, you know, I just honestly, I don't feel like you treat me like a manager. I'm overseeing this department and everything, and I'm making it happen. She said, that's because you're not a manager. I said, well, that's news to me because it says it on my door, and I've held that title now for 2 years. Nope, not as far as I'm concerned.
Is that right?
Oh, you. Okay.
I'm just gonna start notching this belt up now.
I'm not saying who you are, but you are. You fall under the purposefully oblivious category. So I know she's friends with some of the people I have on Facebook. So let's go with the clueless a-hole. Actually, to be honest with you, I think she's fitting in all these categories. So. This person doesn't even realize that they are acting horrible to someone unless it is pointed out to them. Sutton, this guy that wrote this book, said it's best for people to surround themselves with those who are not afraid to tell them if they're acting like an a-hole. But most importantly, it is on each and every person to recognize their own actions and how it can be perceived by others. Good?
I should tell you the story of when me and Austin first met.
No, go ahead.
It's probably, I don't even know which category this falls under. What was the first one?
It's a little bit of the first and the last.
Yeah.
Essentially, you're trying to say that Austin is an
can be.
Former. I'm working on it. Work in progress.
So my wife Taylor, she's working at the restaurant in Boston's, and I'm just coming up for the weekends at this point. And she's like, yeah, I'm working till 10. It's like 7 o'clock. Just go down and hang out with my family. I'm like, all right. So Austin and his buddy are on the couch, and I get there, and I was working at a finance company then, and obviously I knew Austin's a vet, so first thing came to my mind was thank him for serving the country. They go,
it was Veterans Day too. That's the worst part. Like, it was a day you should be thanking us.
So I look at him. I'm just like, hey man, I just want thank you for serving our country and risking your life for us. And he goes, don't say that to me, like in a dead straight face. And I'm like, he goes, do I thank you for crunching numbers at work? And I'm like, could be a little bit of a difference there. And it's like,
you're saving the company dollars.
And so we're just sitting there in silence. I'm like, this is awkward.
It was rough. I was rough on Chris.
That's kind of your job to do.
It was not. I mean, at the thing, like I look back at it now, and it's one of those things. I think I said it to. Was it you? I said it to the other day, or maybe it was my dad. But I said it to one of them. I was sitting down thinking about. I was thinking about the whole NFL thing, and in my head, I was like, maybe I shouldn't have been such an a-hole to Chris, because like that's what we're fighting for now. At the time, I'm like, don't thank me for like. And at the same time, I'm just trying to be hard on him. Like, obviously, I gotta you know what I mean. And when I'll be the first one to admit, when I first met Chris, I hate him. I wanted to choke him. I met him in a basketball game, and if you know anything about Chris, like he is literally the backyard champion of the world. All right, like he's that guy that will go home and whatever flavor of Quates you're playing, he's gonna go home a loser, but he's gonna come back and kick us the next time. You know what I mean?
Learn from the mistakes.
But yeah, like I met him in he was playing a basketball game. We were all playing a basketball game together, and like he was just playing so hard. And it was like, mixed gender and stuff. I'm like, yo, why ain't that serious? So, but Chris he's about winning, man. Like he's champion. He's got the belt. He wants a shot at the title every time. And I remember thinking in my head, this guy, there's something wrong with him. And then like 2 months later, he's in my living room thanking me for my service. I'm like.
So were you up in the area here because of his sister?
Yes. No. So I came back. A good friend of mine. He's I'm from Westchester, so he went to Westchester. He said, "Come back and hang out in Schnecksel for the weekend." And we played open gym basketball, just like a random weekend. That's how I met Taylor. So yeah,
he's just a really serious open gym player. And I remember walking out of the gym thinking that guy is, you know what I mean? Next 2 months later, he's in the living room. I'm like, come on, man.
All right, so let's talk about how we can actually avoid these types of people in life. Create physical distance. So one of the most reliable ways to become an a-hole is to be around them. So it's kind of like it's the old saying.
You are
parents.
The company.
Yeah, or when parents say, "Show me your friends, I'll show you who you are," type thing. He recommends first creating physical distance from the people around you who exhibit toxic behavior. Previous research has shown people are more likely to exhibit horrible behavior of their own in the workplace if they are within a 25-foot radius of a toxic person. I think it's good advice. I don't know how much control you would have as an employee over it. I mean, you could request being moved somewhere else, but... Man, some of those cubicles are tight.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, getting 25.
Thank God I'm on a roof all day without anybody.
Did this guy just promote a safe zone? That's what he just did. He just promoted
workplace safe zone.
Get him a danger zone.
I think how I've handled these people in the past is I just try to outthink them. They have no idea, like, I know what's going on, but like I'm so far ahead of you, you don't even understand it. Like kind of like you do with your boss. So I mean, it's like you just outthink them, and it's like for the people that are oblivious on purpose, you're oblivious back while doing it so vague that it's like you're doing it back to them while you know they're doing it to you, but you're making it seem so nonchalant that they don't even know what's going on.
If you can joke with them,
exactly,
and make fun of them without them realizing
exactly,
it, and not
that's huge.
Yeah, because what will happen is they'll be a jerk to you, they'll laugh it off, and then they'll go home and be like, man, they got me there.
It's true.
I'm the idiot.
You shall thank them.
So you can also, number 2 here is alter your perspective. So the second solution to the problem is to reframe the mind's mental thoughts to help protect oneself. People can do this by finding humor in the situation or feeling sad for the person who feels the need to act that way. So it's kind of like the situation. If as long as you're not being completely bullied and battered down every day, that you physically feel it, and that happens. Like,
oh yeah.
I mean, honestly, that was that situation. Like, I just came home exhausted, and it wasn't even like, it's just mentally draining sometimes, But if you can up that game and have fun with it, and realizing that they're that type of person, yeah.
I tell you what, the toughest part about that is, in kind of like you being in like a middle management position, you know where that goes.
Oh yeah,
to the people below you. And that's where then you start looking like, I mean, my last job, I was working 110 hours a week, killing myself to try and, produce what needed to be produced. And the people above me were just laying on me so hard to do everything. Anytime there's like call outs or anything like this, that, the other thing. And I finally, I got to a point where it's like, don't make me even put my boots on, because if I got to walk out on that floor, I'm going to lose my mind.
What was that?
Like I was in a position where I went from.
Can you say what you were doing or no?
No, I don't care. Really, honestly, God. I mean, I was working at Nestle, and I was in a middle management position there, like running the night shift and stuff. And I mean, he'll attest to it. You didn't see me. What was I working? 110 hours. When did you see me?
Yeah,
you didn't.
That's crazy.
You didn't. I was constantly at work. If somebody called out or whatever, I had to go in there, redo a schedule, because nobody apparently in the rest of this plan knew how to redo a schedule. And like, you don't know how to fill in a box. Like, I didn't even know how to work a computer at the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, Excel, I can do this. I can pull this off. Like dirt to dirt. You know what I'm saying?
Austin, what are you doing in there? I'm working on a schedule. That's a calculator. Get back out on the floor.
I got highlighter all over my screen. I'm like, I can't get them to come out yellow. You know what I mean? Like, but it got to a point point where like they were laying on me so hard to do so much that, you know, it was like with you, like it got to the point where I realized like I was pushing that on the people that were below me. And like I had to like take a step back and be like, you know, what am I really doing here? Am I happy with what I'm doing? And I mean, I'm the first one to admit it. I eventually got so upset with the situation of an individual calling off like on a Tuesday for 4 weeks straight at the same time telling me their sister had a heart attack. These are doctors. They get good money to go in there once. You know?
Listen, call them on Monday nights. Okay. Don't let your sister go to the Krispy Kreme. Okay? Let's just keep her away from her.
I need you to keep your sister away from the McDonald's deep fryer tomorrow, because if you leave, I have to ask all these other people that come to work every Tuesday at 10 o'clock to cover 2 positions or 2 machines, which is at that point, it's not even the fact of having to make them cover. I'm asking you to do twice the work and get paid the same amount.
Yep.
And morality in me, it pisses me off. Because I knew what it was like to have to work to pick up other people's things. And once in a while is okay. But when you continue to do it, not only are you putting other people out, but you're pissing off the other 5,400, whatever people it is on the floor, because they're constantly picking up your slack.
You know, I'll be honest with you and say with absolute certainty, I have never been the person that allowed someone's negativity to rub off on me that it rubbed off onto the people below me at all. But that's not to say it didn't affect me. Like the people that worked either beside me or with me on projects and everything. I never actually was a manager over people. It was more like I managed a department where I used other departments to get my projects done and I had to work with them and everything. They could just see the effect it was having on me. You know what I mean? You can only bottle stuff up for so long.
And that's what they said to me. It makes you unapproachable. And that's where I got. I got to a point where I was just unapproachable because I was like my eyes were like I didn't have any whites in my eyes anymore. Like every day I was just like, you know, it's like you're waiting for the next shot. You know what I mean? That's a horrible feeling in life in general. Just waiting for where the next hook's gonna come from, and it always comes, and you never see it. You know it's coming.
You got to have some sort of. If you can't get out of the situation, you have to have some sort of release. You know what I mean? I
spent 2 hours a day in a gym.
Yeah.
Didn't help.
Yeah. Well, no, me either. That just stressed me out more. So I'm a fat ass.
And I loved it. Like, I'd walk in, I'd go and lift my ass. I'd walk in and like a little bulldog. Like I couldn't even wipe my ass. You know what I mean? But I was still angry for some reason. I was like, why are you so angry? Like, I don't know.
So number 3, kill him with kindness, he says. His final suggestion is changing that person so that they are on your side instead. Flattery and kissing their butt does seem to work. Turning the hater into a friend makes it harder for them to be rude towards you. Sutton also mentioned the Benjamin Franklin effect, a psychological phenomenon that helps when handling the haters, in quotes there. This is where someone does little favors for...
This guy went from Ben Franklin to haters. There's nothing in between
quite
there.
The sentence there. So this is where someone does little favors for someone who is mean to them and is purposefully nice. The phenomenon finds the receiver of these favors is likely to continue to return the favor then over time.
Yeah, it just goes back to what I was saying before. It's along the line. It's like it's a chess game.
Yeah,
in a sense.
Yeah.
It's like I know what you're trying to do, but you don't know what I'm trying to do to counteract it. It's kind of funny.
And by the way, if you're listening to these traits and you're having a hard time figuring out who the a-hole is in your group, chances are you're probably the one.
I'm well aware of it. I'm still. I feel like that's
so. It actually goes on. He said? What
self-awareness is key.
He said, "What happens if you actually find out that you happen to be the a-hole?" He said he's found a combination of reasons for why people turn towards the nasty behavior. These include the inequality of power and wealth seen in the workplace, exhaustion, and role models who act like a-holes. All of the above can be triggers for someone to start acting horribly to others. The most reliable way to find yourself behaving in a rude way is by surrounding yourself with others who act similarly. If you're an a-hole and a winner, you're still a loser in my book, he said, which is a good way.
That's 100% true.
Yep. He recommends for people to take responsibility for their behavior and alter it slowly to create a better environment for those around them, which is actually kind of interesting that they said this because your videos that you do, you're used to cursing. It's a part of your language. And it's not that I
You don't have to watch your mouth, man.
No. It's a behavior trait. And I'm, look, I can't lie. I'm guilty of it too in my private life. It's something I've felt like I've worked on for years. My wife would tell you I am not working on it, but I really do,
I go in spurts.
But the thing is, I told you when you came on the podcast, I don't allow cursing. Number one, I'm going onto an internet radio station that's a clean station, And number two, if you do, I got to edit into a beep. All right. And the way you talk, this podcast won't be going up until next month. This is going to be beeping like crazy.
You think somebody's dying in the background?
Yeah.
Just flatlining.
So, but that being said, so let me just read this last part here again real quick. He recommends for people to take responsibility for their behavior and alter it slowly to create a better environment for those around them. And you sent me a personal message yesterday or this morning. And you said, you told me this last week, and for the last week, I've been trying to train myself to not say those words in anticipation of being on your podcast.
Well, yeah.
Right? So it takes work. It takes training. It takes you to acknowledge what's going on and take responsibility for it is exactly what he's saying and what you said.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said before, that's kind of what I push in my whole thing, self-responsibility. And I always say, like, if you want to get anywhere, lead by example. Yep. But this also was a huge opportunity for me to come in and show that I can get through an educated conversation with someone without dropping the F-bomb every 15 seconds. And it's not that it's an impossibility for me, but if you look at where I came from, like the military, okay, the Marine Corps, I will tell you right now, the F word is a comma.
Yeah.
Like I can describe to you exactly what's happening and not use any other word, just pauses.
Oh yeah, like it acts as a verb and noun and everything else.
It's everything. The beep beep thing over there is beep 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 beep, and that's it. And the problem is, like, it's such a part of that culture.
Yeah, it's hard to...
This guy next to me knows what I'm talking about, so there's no reason to stop. Yeah, you know what I mean? And then you come out and you walk into normal, like, everyday society, and it's a very tough thing to turn off. Yeah. And I've learned how to turn it off when I need to. Like, obviously, I've held jobs in life and done things. I can turn it off when I have to. But my thing is like, when I'm speaking for myself and how I feel on something, I do take the general pattern approach on certain things that if I wanted to get through, cuss, because it sticks. Because even if you don't hear anything else, you heard me. He just used foul language. Okay, good. You heard that. Now listen to the rest.
Yeah. Well, actually, to be honest with you, I have a kind of a personal story to this that, I just said I was working on it for years and everything. And then my last job, I was working at a car dealership. And this guy, my manager, I mean, if they're not cursing at you, they're not talking, you know? And they're just beating you down every day. Yeah. Your numbers aren't good enough. You could sell 25 cars in one day. And he's like, why didn't you sell 26? You know what I mean? And it's just like rude, nasty talking every day. And I would come home and she would hear it. It would naturally roll off my tongue because I was in the environment. And that goes back to them saying that if you're around toxic people, you're going to absorb that toxic nature of them and project that in those environments, and it's going to follow you,
Oh, yeah.
So that's something that...
I find that ironic, though, because I've always been better, like in my professional life, my mouth has always been better than my home life, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and that's
unfortunately,
the thing.
This was a flip situation where they encouraged it there, and it was...
it was congratulations, you served.
Yeah.
Now you understand a little aspect of what that's like.
Well, the good news is I got to drive around Maseratis and a Lamborghini and a Ferrari. I mean, so it had
I don't understand what you're cussing about.
Well, a little F driving down the road honking the horn, may have been a little well-deserved at the time.
I earned this.
I'll tell you what, best... My dad's an engineer and works on cars. His whole life, we'd go to car shows. We'd go up to New York, the Javits Center almost every year for the New York City Car Show. We see these like exotic cars, and you just think to yourself, like, oh my gosh, what is that like? And the one day last summer, I get to drive from in this area here. A lot of people may not know, but Tillman Street, there by the Kmart, right? And movie theater, down to the Sands in Bethlehem, Ferrari California T out there, and then a Lamborghini Huracan all the way back. And my dad, who's grown up with the craziest experiences with cars and stuff, he has never had that kind of opportunity. Now, it kind of felt good to say, guess what I drove today?
Winning.
Oh, I wish I could have had him along with me, because that would have been a dream come true for him. So, okay, so we're pretty much, what do we got here? Oh, we're talking about, he said, if you're an a-hole and a winner, you're still a loser in my book. So he recommends that people take responsibility for their behavior. He recognizes that sometimes people can fall into the trap of acting like a jerk in order to avoid one in their own life. So kind of hedging that bet that you're going up against someone, you know. But reacting to people negatively doesn't always yield the best results, because they can take over your personal life, you know. Mm-hmm. So, while we're on the topic of a-holes, while everyone was freaking out about the players in the NFL protesting, a very unpeaceful event happened in a Tennessee church. So according to the Blaze, a Sudanese immigrant named Emmanuel Kadega Sampson murdered someone in the parking lot and then walked into Burnett Chapel Church of Christ and started shooting indiscriminately. The victim who died was a 39-year-old woman and mother of two named Melanie Smith. According to her family members, she was a godly and compassionate woman. Sampson wounded 6 other people, including the pastor, before an usher stopped him. The hero, in this case, was a 22-year-old named Caleb Engel. He was pistol-whipped in the face during the confrontation. He struggled with Sampson until the terrorist accidentally shot himself. Great. And Engel then went out to his car, to grab his own firearm and stood guard over the wounded shooter until the police arrived. The New York Times ended up putting this mass shooting on page 14 of the newspaper. Okay. After all the NFL stuff right on the front cover. This was an act of terrorism and perpetrated by an immigrant, no less, something that Trump has been criticized for warning about. But the victims were Christians, so obviously it wasn't a big deal. You know? That's one thing that he's... Again, I don't know how you guys feel about Trump. I'm not a big... I like some of the stuff he's doing. I'm not a fan of him personally. I don't really like the guy's personality and everything.
I don't think anybody,
you know, but unfortunately, events kind of prove him right a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And in this case, when you're talking about immigrants in the country and everything, and people are like, oh, he labels all immigrants as rapists and you know, they're murderers and drug dealers and everything. No, he said that with that comes those things, right? So just like any situation, there's bad apples in the crowd and everything. And unfortunately, if you open a floodgate, you know, all the fish are going to come in, you know, and you can't single them out.
Did you miss Europe?
Oh, it's horrible in Europe. The one country, I think it's Poland, I believe it's Poland, that doesn't have any terrorist attacks is the one that's the most stringent
in their vetting process.
In their vetting. Actually, they don't allow them in.
Yeah, they just, that's very stringent.
Yeah, but we're the a-holes. We're the guide.
Naturally.
we're the front cover of the a-hole guide, survival guide. You know what I mean? But no, you're absolutely right. I mean, you look at Germany, and what was it, last New Year's or New Year's before that? It was a mass rape across the country at that night because of the immigrants in the country and everything. And that's not to say that all the immigrants just all of a sudden threw up their hands and said, hey, this is us, let's do it. It's a bad group of people that have taken advantage of getting into countries with the wave, kind of riding that wave essentially to get in there.
It's a double-edged sword though, because here's where it comes out, and it comes in like I said, when I watched the election this year, it was like the better of both evils. Like it really was at the end of the day. Like it's not absolutely. It's not who's good, it's who's not that bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I think that's a huge thing in America right now. Everybody thinks just because you supported Trump, you automatically agree with everything he does.
You had to literally search for something.
It was like all right, well, what? You know what it came down to for me? Well, Hillary already killed 3 Americans in Benghazi, so she's killing us already. 4, excuse me. Yeah. She's already killing us. So, well, has Trump killed any of us yet? Nope. All right, you get the vote then. I guess
you'd be surprised because you'd think that he's killing people every day.
That's the thing. The way it's the thing. But back to the double-edged sword thing about the immigrants thing, and I have learned this personally in my life, and as messed up as it sounds, his mouth, this is where it gets him in trouble.
No.
This is where, no, this, honest God, this is where other people's mouth got me in trouble, though.
Okay.
If you tell somebody what they are, what reason they have not to do it? If you look at me and you say, you're an asshole, you're this, that, the other thing, there it was.
You gotta.
Got so close. But if you say you're this, or this, you're already being identified as that. So what is your motivation to act differently at that time? Like
I
at
would
that
argue
point,
to
it's
prove
like
them wrong, but
I don't feel like that people, if you're a president, is looking at you and say, depending on who the person is. If somebody looked at me like, okay, like Chris looked at me and was like, stop being that type of person. You know what I mean? And I was like, I can do that for you, man. Like you're my family, like people who are close to you. But if the president of a nation that you're coming into is already kind of crashing, like smashing down on you before you even get an opportunity, you know what I mean? What are we doing to give them, like, what are we doing to just sit there and say, all right, and don't get me wrong, trust me, I'm not for everybody coming in, but this is what I'm saying, I don't think his mouth helps the cause.
No, not at all. Yeah.
Like, I don't think, the way he fires off, from firsthand experience.
Yeah. Well, here's the problem. It's also misconstrued on what the angle of the people on the right is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not that we're against immigration. We're just against it being done in an illegal manner.
Mm-hmm.
Like, come through the system properly. Because if the system does have to end up supporting those individuals while they're here. And if we're going to be supporting those individuals, they should be paying into the system as well to help support themselves, at least in a percentage-wise. You know, a small percentage.
I mean, the biggest thing that kills me about that is, like, you come in, I had this argument like 2 months ago with someone, and, you know, they had family members that were here, and then we're like, they're not legal here in this thing. Do they mean less? And I'm like, it's not that they mean less. Or we mean more.
Do you have a name and address?
No.
I'm just joking.
Never do that. And, I mean, it's you know, great person, but at the same time, like, I'm sitting there looking at it especially from a vet standpoint. God forbid, with everything we get going on, something pops off and we need to restart the draft. God forbid, all right? Obviously, why don't they have to fight? But everybody here, and that's that's what it comes down to me. These people, if worst came to worst, could go back home, but this is my home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you'd have to go, and you'd have to go. You guys didn't ask for that. You didn't choose that way of life. You know what I mean?
Okay, go ahead.
But I mean, that's my
I
thing.
actually
Like,
was close to signing up, but then I got cancer, and wouldn't have happened.
all right, listen. Biggest waiver ever.
Yeah. I'm just throwing it out there.
Sorry,
Waving that
got
flag.
cancer, bro.
No,
This
actually,
goes back to the OCD thing. We're laughing. Like, yeah, this guy got cancer. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta be able to just say it.
To go along with your point, actually, I think it was either in the last podcast or the podcast before that, we were talking about illegal immigration. I said, first of all, there's no way that he could go through with his plans anyway. And I think that's a misperception of the left right now, is that, you know, he's going to toss everyone out across the border, like just throw them back over the fence. You know what I mean? There's no way to possibly do that. You can't comb through and get them all, right? But if we're going to expedite the process, you know, let's take care of the people that are in line currently, going through the process legally, get the other people into the back of the line, try to speed this up somehow. But if you want an easy pass, so to speak, you know, in the fast lane and everything, I personally believe allowing them to serve in the military and earn their right as a citizen.
It's always been that way.
Fast way. Yeah.
You can go in, you can serve. I've seen a lot of people do that.
But to gain their citizenship?
I've had guys with me that have done that to gain their citizenship. Congratulations! If you're that, and that's my biggest point when it came down to it all. It's like you need to be willing to fight if you want to be here. In my mind, like you got to be willing to fight for this place. And when things get tough, not just turn around and go back home and say, "Oh, I don't want to play no more." You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just it's a difficult perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get back to that. I mean, the original topic I think you mentioned was about this subject was that the shooting was on page 14 of the paper, and it's like the persecution of Christians in the 21st century is worse than it's ever been, even in the first century, and it doesn't really get reported because the mainstream, they don't know what to say about it.
No.
I mean, it's like, not to get really deep on it, but it's like, why aren't if somebody were to do this to like, a Buddhist like meetup, I mean, that would or just even like a Hindu or
It would be a
anything.
running
Of
24-hour
course,
story.
of course. And it's like,
Here's one for you. Vet shoots up mosque. Could you imagine where that would be?
Oh, yeah.
Like that would.
Well, it's because, and again, this is something I've gone over before, and you guys probably haven't heard it, but Christians are an easy target because if you criticize the Muslims culture, right, or Islamic, I'll say Islamic because I have some Muslim friends that would never do anything crazy.
Correct.
You know what I mean? If you criticize the Islamic culture or say or draw or anything about Muhammad or anything, they'll kill you.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's not even a joke. It's not like an idle threat or anything. They will do that, you know. So you don't find people talking about that in the media because there are actual threats out there that they will do that. You talk about a Christian that happens to do like someone that even loosely claims to be a Christian. They're immediately tied to like being a full-hearted, full-fledged Christian if they do something wrong, and that's all it's about. It's not even about the person and their background and everything that goes into them. It's that religion, because what is a Christian going to do to you? It's all about forgiveness.
Forgive you.
Yeah, exactly, right?
100%. 100%.
So they're easy. We're easy targets, essentially, you know?
Well, yeah, that's because as a Christian, if you stand up for yourself, you're going in media's eyes and social eyes are like, well, you're going against what you believe.
Yeah.
You're immediately a hypocrite for standing your ground, and that's why I have the scripture I do tattooed on my calves. Blessed be the Lord. No, I mean, that's why I got tattooed to my calves. Blessed be the Lord my God, who trains my fingers for battle and my hands for war. Yeah. It's not that I won't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll forgive you to a certain point, but don't ever get to thinking, I don't know what I'm doing with these. You know what I mean? I will stand for myself. And I think that's a major thing that even in an art, like, I mean, we can sit here and say, I don't mind saying, I mean, I don't know how you are, but I think we all identify as a Christian at this table, correct? And I mean, that's a big thing for us. It molded us into who we are. I'm grateful for that because the a-hole I was before probably wouldn't have gotten better or been forgiven without that. I'd be on a one-way trip somewhere else. But I mean, I think it's very important for us as a Christian not to get too much into the religion thing because, I mean, religion to each their own. Like, that's the beauty of this nation. You know, you can believe whatever you want to believe, and I don't push that hard on anyone. I can't make, horse to water can't make a drink type thing. Right. But if you are identifying in that religious realm, I think it's important that people understand that doesn't mean you have to be a pushover. Yep. There's nothing in there that says you just have to.
You got to tread lightly because.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the position that we're in.
I think, something I want to say about this is, I know you mentioned why are Christians targeted? It's targeted as an easy target. I would make the claim that if Satan is real, he's going after the truth to destroy the truth, and why would he bother wasting his time going after a lie? And that's why Muslims don't shoot up Hindus, and they don't shoot up Buddhists, and Christianity is attracted because it's the genuine. And that's why Jesus' name is taken in vain. Yeah. And people don't say Muhammad as a curse word, and they don't say Siddhartha Gautama Buddha as a curse word, because Christ is the genuine, and all the others are not. And truth in itself is exclusive, but people don't like to say that because 2 + 2 = 4. And Christ is claiming to be the only way, and all the others are wrong. So in itself, the claims are exclusively true, but the main, people don't like absolute truth because it's offensive. So, I mean, that's my take on it.
Be offended.
I'll tell you what, that's actually a topic that's floating around in our household right now. I will say this: if you happen to come across this article by Matt Walsh, it was a fantastic one, and I hope I'm not giving anything away for our church board meeting, but essentially he said, if you're sitting in church and you're not uncomfortable, there's something wrong with the message that's being preached, right? Because if you're, and this is my own take on that, if you're sitting in church and you're completely comfortable and you're la-di-da, you think you're a good Christian because you're sitting there, you're there on Sundays, you go home, you forget about it until next Sunday and everything, and you just reaffirming your values when you go there and everything, and you're completely comfortable, you're not getting the truth, right? Because we're all broken people. So what he essentially said was, if you stand at the pulpit and you give the truth of God, right, and there's 100 people in your church, and 98 of those people are offended and get up, and 2 of them are left there, those are the true Christians, right? They are going to go out into the world, into the community, and preach the word of God, right? And they might bring back some of those 98. But if you're in the pulpit and you're giving a lukewarm thing where you're trying not to offend people, you're walking on eggshells and everything, and those people are being starved from the truth, and those 2 people leave, well, now you're preaching to 98 people that really don't care about being Christians anyway. And now you're preaching to an empty congregation, essentially, you know? And who's going to go out and have outreach from that? No one.
I mean, I'm not even saying that, not to be too PC or anything, because that's my strong point, obviously, but that's in anything you follow in life, not just religion, whether it be your religion, whether it be you have whatever you're following is, heck, right down to the football team you follow. You know what I mean? In the simplest things, in most basic of terms, like if you're not, and that's something huge I push. Be real. Like, you see me, I've sat here for an hour and a half and not put my crap on anyone. I put it all on me. These are all the things that I've jacked up in life. And some of them are my biggest faults, you know what I mean? And I think that's important, that like you're able to accept the negative with the positive and be able to say, all right, well, this hurts, but that you can't heal without hurting first, and that's
absolutely. I agree with you.
I'd rather be the one dead and the few wounded in that church than be the guy shooting, and I'll just leave it at that. I'd rather be the one shot than the one shooting in that situation.
Yeah,
that's it.
Take it for what
Bottom
you
line.
believe in.
Take it for what it is. I'd rather be the one shot than the one shooting.
Well, to be honest with you, if you are that strong of a follower of Christ, you're not really that afraid of going anyway. You know what I mean?
One thing I've never been afraid of is death.
So
prove that on a few different.
So I have 2 stories that will help us transition into the actual political realm, since we haven't really touched on too much on politics yet. First, we have MSNBC's Chuck Todd talking about Alabama's Roy Moore. So I'm going to play that video. You guys can't see the screen with him on it, but you'll be able to hear it. So let's hear what he had to say.
If you're not familiar with this guy, pull up a chair. Because after knocking off the president and McConnell's preferred establishment candidate in last night's Alabama runoff by nearly 10 points, Roy Moore, where the phrase Christian conservative doesn't even begin to describe him, could very well be your next U.S. senator. And if you don't understand just how freaked out some folks in the GOP and the White House are about what that means, then you don't know Roy Moore. First off, he doesn't appear to believe in the Constitution as it's written.
Our rights don't come from government. They don't come from a Bill of Rights. They come from Almighty God.
Now, that's just a taste of what are very fundamentalist views that have gotten him removed from office twice as Alabama's Chief Justice.
Yeah.
So Chuck Todd is just going off about what a crazy extremist this guy is, and then you get a clip of him just saying very simply, I don't believe that rights come from government. They come from God. And that's the clip. It ends like that. Yeah. You know what I mean? And Chuck Todd needs to do a little bit of a history lesson. Maybe he needs to, and I wouldn't even suggest public school to get that history lesson because it's falling apart so much. But the fact of the matter is, if you read the founding documents, it actually says inalienable rights, which are given to you by God, right? And if he would, here's what most people don't understand. I've explained this before too. Even good political people misunderstand the Constitution a lot, right? Which is, the Constitution isn't a document that gives us rights. It's a document that tells the government what they can't do to us as citizens, okay? And once you start realizing that and reading it that way, the whole thing changes, right? They can't stop you from establishing a religion. They can't stop you from speaking, right? They can't stop you from owning a firearm. They can't stop you from barring soldiers being quartered in your house and stuff like that. You could go through all of that, right? And it's all it is telling you what the government is not allowed to do to you. So it's actually a blockade to stop the government from infringing on your inalienable rights from God. So this guy, Roy Moore, who he's criticizing, is actually spot on, and it's Chuck Todd that doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
Correct. But here's where it comes in, and Americans get confused with that. They want to sit there and constantly say inalienable
You want
rights.
to bullet point this?
Yeah, because I had someone do it to me the other day, say something to me about it the other day, about your inalienable rights. And you don't understand that because of that Constitution on the second hand, or the reason we put that in and you're allotted those here, because if you were to go to another country...
Are you talking about a specific right?
No, just your inalienable rights here are provided by God, but that's because this nation recognized that.
Yeah,
It's not because if you go to Iraq, Afghanistan, anywhere else, and you say the term inalienable rights, they stone you to death.
Yeah.
And they say, write that. What's up? And you turn around and go home, or they take your head off. And I think that's where people get confused. You're allotted inalienable rights here because this nation was built one nation under God. So keep taking that term, one nation under God, out of everything we do and see where your inalienable rights go.
Yeah.
You will be in the same position as everyone else. See, we always want to remove half and take the part we like and jigsaw it together so it fits our argument. You know what I mean?
But it's more like Jenga, where you start pulling
Correct.
things out and it's all going to
Exactly. 100% true.
Yeah.
I agree.
You know, the crazy thing about this is the fact that, and I almost hesitate on even saying it, I encourage people that believe the lie that's spread in the public here, that Christianity and religion isn't something that was foundational to the founding fathers, or even the founders, which I would consider the Pilgrims.
Mm-hmm.
What would religion have to do with the Pilgrims?
No.
Obviously, you know?
What were they persecuted
Yeah.
for?
But I mean, if you actually take a look, I would encourage anyone who thinks that religion never played a part into the founding of this country to actually go down to Washington, D.C. and walk around the monuments, because you're going to find God enshrined in almost every single monument down there. And the reason why I hesitate on saying that is because our statues are being ripped up all over the place, and that could very well be chiseled out one day because of people being offended by it.
Stop being offended. Here's the thing. Here's the thing that absolutely blows my mind about the term God when it's used. The cool thing about the word God is it can be anyone you want to you. Like if you're a Muslim, you're like, well, that's my God. We know what it stands for. Why are you chiseling it out? If you don't like it that much, what did you say about the
It's more so atheists.
Yeah, whatever it may be. But what did you say when we went to the A-hole handbook? What was the one guy?
Well, you have to
the one aspect where it said, "We'll change it in your mind."
Oh yeah, perspective.
You know, perspective. There you go. If it offends you that much, don't be an a-hole. Change your perspective.
Yep.
Look at it differently. We know what it means to us at the end of the day. We know what it really means, but if you don't like it, change your perspective a little bit. You know what I mean?
They don't realize
there you
go. The person.
You're that guy. You know?
You're that one in the
you know
group.
how I know that? I was that guy. I'm a professional at picking out that guy.
Anything that you wanted to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think most people who like Chuck, or he's obviously kind of making fun of him from saying our rights come from Almighty God, not from the Constitution. I think most people who attack him or Christians or whoever, well, they don't, I don't want to say it, they don't understand the alternative that, you know, if our rights didn't come from God, there's no absolute moral framework to start with without God. And they think, well, what God are you talking about? You're talking the Judeo-Christian, you're talking about, you know, the Muslim or the Hindu. Well, I think it's pretty clear that when people are blotting out the God, they're talking about the Judeo-Christian. And it's because, back to what I was saying earlier, he's the genuine and he's the real. Yep. So, I mean, yeah, so.
Harnessing your inner Phil.
What's that?
Harnessing your inner.
Yeah. Inner what?
Phil.
Cliff,
excuse me, Cliff. Yeah,
okay.
Your inner Cliff.
It's interesting too that this is just a religious observation and everything. I think every religion out there requires sacrifice, except for Christianity, which was God sacrificing Himself for us. Yeah, you know, it doesn't require us to sacrifice, which is kind of a cool perspective.
Well, everybody, it's almost like when you Christians, you're preaching the gospel to somebody, you're telling people news. Every other religion, think about what's their motivation to get me to come to your religion, so I can do this, 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 and this, and this, and this, and this, and maybe I'll make it to your paradise someday. So it's like, what's their motivation to explain it to us is like, but we're just giving you guys good news, and why wouldn't we just give you the good news that Christ came to die for you. You know, it's
already
like
been done. Yeah.
it's been done, and every other worldview besides biblical Christianity is, can your good deeds outweigh your bad? In a sense, I mean, it can be more down the finite for that, but
and even that gets muddy because obviously you look at the Islamic radical portion of that where you have to literally shed blood to bring back their prophet. You know what I mean?
I feel like people don't understand how lucky you are to live in a country, and I can speak.
Where were you?
I was in Iraq. Like I think it's important for people to understand like how lucky you are to live in a country that was based on that framework, because you've been allotted. When I say this, you have been allotted so much under that framework, and you think you got travesties and oppression here. You ain't seen nothing. This is a cakewalk what you have here, and you should be grateful for it every day. I live in the best country on earth, and I'm grateful for that every day. And when I sit down and I look at it, as to what you were saying about the deeds and stuff, I think honestly, Jefferson Beth, he said it best when he said, religion is man looking for God. Christianity is God looking for man. And that is he wants you. You know what I mean? And that's the difference. Everywhere else you go, it's these people. It's people constantly striving, chasing what, like you're literally chasing to be something your whole life. It's a long list of rules and obligations to things. And it's like, okay, I mean, how many times do you sit down and like, I mean, I've seen it in a lot of other cultures. You sit down, you look at the other person, and you're judgmental of each other, and you're on the same team.
Yep.
And that's the major debilitator in religion, per se, is it's a competition. It's made out to be a competition. And newsflash, at the end of this one, not everyone gets a trophy.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the reality of it here. Not everyone gets the trophy, you know?
A whole other discussion, too, is what people actually think heaven is. That's completely messed up.
And to that point, it's people don't understand, or a lot of people don't understand that, a lot of the main religions of the world are teaching vastly different messages, from Judaism to Christianity to Hinduism to Islam. And the fact of the matter is, the coexist stickers, we can coexist, but the reality is these all can't be true. They could all be false, but they definitely all aren't true. Yeah. And
that's a good way to put it.
People are, people can die and, expect something that they're just, it's, yeah, so.
Eggshells.
Yeah, never mind.
Like, he's like, the mouth, you can see the blood leaking out the corner. It's just,
I mean, obviously.
I told you I was bringing him for a reason.
Well, listen, the other portion of this, besides Chuck Todd attacking his Christian faith, basically, was the fact that he was attacking the founding document and not really having a concrete understanding of it, right? What the Constitution is and how it works and everything, which is probably why the media sucks the way it does.
Yeah.
So kind of going off of that, though, in related news, a teacher in Mesa, Arizona, crossed out the word men in the Declaration of Independence and made her fourth graders recite a gender-neutral version of the Declaration. Austin's lips are just curling up at the thought. So a concerned mother, Elizabeth Valancourt, she said, I was disturbed at the fact that somebody is changing historical documents and nobody has the right to change our historical documents. You teach what's written. You don't rewrite it and teach it how you feel you believe. Each and every morning after the Pledge of Allegiance is said, that the class recited this altered version of our Declaration of Independence. This teacher also felt it was a teachable moment when she shared with her class that she attended a protest of our president, Donald Trump. When I confronted the teacher, she in fact believed this behavior to be within her rights. We did get the sign removed from the classroom as well as my son. My son is a Boy Scout of America and felt uncomfortable enough about this to tell us. If he had not, and to my great shame, we would not have known, and this would still be occurring. So when Valancourt approached school officials, she was told that her social media activity about the issue, what do you think it did?
It probably, honest to God, it probably helped her.
Hurt the teacher's feelings.
Get out of here. Oh man, I
That's
can't
what
even.
That's what the school said to her. Because she wrote this on social media, this whole thing about the Declaration of Independence and what the teacher was doing. And the teacher said, the school said it hurt the teacher's feelings that she wrote this online.
Did it now?
Yeah, it did. But according to a local TV station, KGUN, K-Gun, this is apparently not an uncommon thing in the area. And they said that another teacher in another school has told students to refrain from saying "bless you" after hearing someone sneeze. Wow! So that's something else that they were pushing. A Mesa public school spokesman added to the station in a statement that the recitation of the Declaration of Independence is included in a policy regarding school ceremonies, and that teachers aren't supposed to share their political views with students. And the letter actually said it should be recited as written and not modified in any way. School administration, when learning of the alteration to the text, provided feedback and guidance to the teacher to restore the document to its original format. There is not a specific reference in policy to the discussion of political beliefs by a teacher in a classroom. However, in practice, the district does not allow teachers to share their political views with students. When the teacher used a personal example of how individuals can have differing political views but still be friends, the principal reminded the teacher that personal examples are not appropriate in a classroom setting. So they're taking the right stance, but unfortunately it's like kind of a little too late type situation. And going back to my own experience on the school board and everything, my hope, first of all, I was considered a radical on the board, okay? Which is crazy when you actually think about it, because I had the Women's League of Voters, liberal members of the board, concerned parents in the community, and the teachers union all trying to get me off the board because I had this Facebook page, the Generation Y Conservative, right? Never talked about the school district at all, right? Never even pushed things in the environment. As a matter of fact, I did more listening than I did talking, which I felt was a great benefit in a board situation. But with that being said, at no point in time do I feel, as a ultra constitutionalist is what I really consider myself, libertarian really, at no point do I feel that teachers should not be teaching a liberal point of view. They should be teaching a conservative point of view, right?
Correct.
As a matter of fact, I believe they should be walking a thin line
Very
right
neutral.
down the middle, allowing the opinions of both sides to be present and encouraging students to think for themselves, which is lacking greatly in our culture, instead of pushing out cookie cutter students. Actually pick a side, defend it, and if your defense is good, I'll give you a good grade.
What do we
it doesn't
call that?
matter. Critical thinking.
Critical thinking and debating, correct? Is that what that's known as? Yeah, I remember that.
We didn't have a debate in our debate team, did we?
Yeah, we did.
Did we? I should have been on it, man.
Man, yeah, you missed your calling. We had a debate team. I know that because I was the a-hole jock. I feel like I spent some time there doing all the wrong things. But shockingly enough, I'm surprised. It's ironic you brought that up because I had that same issue with my daughter's second grade teacher last year, because my daughter went in and voiced her opinion for who her parents were voting for.
Yeah.
And her teacher kind of gave her this,
oh man,
this, and me, I'm like, all right, well, I guess we have to go in and throw her out the window. You know what I mean? But it's my daughter came back, and my daughter's like, yeah, she's, she said that's a bad idea, and you shouldn't do that, and you're bad for that because you're.
The teacher said that?
My daughter.
What school?
In Mays.
Okay.
Mind saying it. I don't care. Okay. They know my discord for them there. They know me and her mother's discord for that school. It's not even the school. Everybody else was great. It was that specific person. So let me just go back and say not the school per se, but that one individual. And it was horrible because it was her first year teaching, and she was still a 22-year-old sorority girl trying to teach our children. Now she's sitting here, and my daughter is coming home with political beliefs that she believes are wrong because a person in authority, a teacher, is telling her how she's supposed to think. You come home to that, to me with that, I'm immediately PO'd. If my daughter grew up and decided she was going to take a Democratic standpoint or whatever, if she had reasoning for that,
He's looking at me.
Like,
but what do you think about that?
but that's the thing. Like you said, let them debate. If you can come to me and you can give me an honest debate, why you believe in this, why you can stand behind this, I can respect it at least. I may not agree, but I can respect it.
Yeah.
I mean, I have people who follow me that come with me with democratic beliefs, and
I've seen it.
Yeah, but I respect it.
Yeah,
and I sit there and I say, hey, man, I get where you're coming from. And the thing is, I've learned that the more you respect another person's thought process of who's like conflicting with you, the more upset they get with you. I've seen it, like, it'll escalate, and then it gets to this point where it's like, we're going to have to agree to disagree here type thing.
Yeah,
And
there's a fork in the road. Some people are really... I have one follower specifically on my page that is completely on the other side of the aisle. She sends me personal messages of encouragement. She tells me where she agrees and disagrees and everything. A great follower. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better person on the other side of the equation. I appreciate that, you know, because that leads to civil discourse, which is severely lacking in our culture right now, and why we're so split as a nation. I mean, we're sitting here calling each other names and just throwing axes at each other without giving any real solutions, which is the bigger part of exactly what the biggest problem is. We do a lot of the complaining, and we never offer solutions on what we actually need to get done.
I'm so glad you said that. I had that with the same thing this past week, just somebody just digging and just throwing rocks. And I finally said, I finally got to a point, I was like, I'm going to have to block you because all you're doing is just, you're sitting here offending people.
Yeah.
You're not pushing, and I said it, I mean, I had to put out a post that basically said, you're not offering me any solutions to this problem.
Yeah.
You're not offering me a different way to look at it. You're not offering anything positive to this situation. All you're doing is it's a definition of hate speech. Like, you're just in here to be in here and to just rile up everyone. But it's like, I mean,
the thing about hate speech is it's still covered as free speech.
Yeah, correct. But that's what I said to him.
But that's what I'm saying.
This is my world.
Considers your speech hate speech, and that's what they use throwing bombs at.
And my biggest thing is, that's right. You can take it that way, but as I look at it, this is my world. You came here. This is my page.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. I own this.
Yeah.
So now what you're doing is you're brandishing a firearm in my house, and you're not going to threaten my people. You're not going to threaten those, because that's not how I get down. So, hey, goodbye, bro.
It's actually pretty funny that you say that. Years ago now, it must have been almost a decade ago. There is a website called Engadget, I think it is, or Gizmodo. It's one of those two. I think it was Engadget, and they at one point it's all gadget and technology, and blog type stuff. And at one point in time, they shut off their comment section because people were just getting into discussions and ranting and raving against each other that had nothing to do with the technology that they were posting. Right. And they made the news for turning off their comments. Other websites were writing about them, saying, freedom of speech, and why aren't you allowing people to talk about these things and everything? You're going to love this, even better than the firearm equation of symbolism of what you threw out there. They said they also were getting flack because they were deleting comments that they found offensive, right? And their exact response as a big good website was, if I invite someone over to my home and they take a crap in the corner and they come back a week later and expect that piece of crap to still be there, it's not going to be. It's not going to work that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you can't come into my house and defecate on my carpet and not expect consequences for it.
100% true.
Yeah, I think that was a perfect way of handling that situation. They eventually did end up turning the comment section back on.
I don't turn them off. And like the thing, even with mine, I don't turn the comments off. And, I had an individual who presented the opposite standpoint of mine very positively. And I sat down and I started thinking. I literally had to write a comment back. I said, you brought up some good points. Give me a moment to think about this, because I'm not, this is well written. You know what I mean? You put time into it. You're not just trolling looking for trouble. This was really well thought out on your part. You give good examples. Give me a moment. Let me think about that. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to sit there and allow you to, train wreck things or belittle people or put people down. I don't promote a bully. We just went through that, but that's neither here nor there anymore.
So I just got a message from someone.
Oh. What do they got to say?
I'm just going to use her first name, Joe. She said, "Are you serious? That was back from the Black Plague." I'm not sure what she was talking about there, but She said, my husband interviewed for a position as a police officer, and they said, what would you do if someone came up and said, F the police to you? He said nothing, and literally he cannot do anything because a person would be protected under freedom of speech.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that goes back to our whole thing where we said, like, it's just because your right is protected, there's a level there of respect.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And that's my thing. Like, even with on the bigger picture of all this, just practice basic respect. Like, come on.
Joe, keep tuned in here, or check back on the YouTube version at least, because this is again that exact statement that she just gave about freedom of speech and offensiveness. Whether essentially, here's what it boils down to: you have the freedom to say whatever you want, but that freedom also comes with consequences.
Correct.
And that's going to feed directly into our main topic tonight. Okay, so moving on here. So that was it. Anything else to say about this teacher or the situation with that?
I got nothing on it.
I don't even, like, honest to God, I think it's so absolutely ludicrous that someone would think to even do that. Like, why do I will not give her any more of my attention. You are a teacher in Mesa, Arizona. Okay, great. Here, learn how to teach.
Yep.
You're not a teacher. You're not a teacher. You're a drone.
Okay, you just kind of brought up another thing. So essentially, one of my biggest problems with public education nowadays is the fact that, look, when we were in school, all right, I'm going to say their names because I'm going to say his name, one of them, but it was a couple. Teacher that was an awesome teacher.
Yeah,
Mr. Romo.
I know who you're talking about.
Mr. Romo.
Mr. Romo was great.
He had the ability to creatively teach his classroom based on different things. I remember him doing a Civil War Jeopardy. Yeah. And I remember a specific thing about that. The one kid, Joe Y. I'm just going to say that. Okay.
Yeah.
I buzzed in and I said it was about a bullet came through a house while someone was doing this, and it was baking bread. Right?
Yeah.
And I said cooking bread just because I was trying to buzz in fast, right?
Yeah.
And this kid was like, "It's baking bread." He shouldn't have gotten a point for that. So I like all that kind
We
of
know
stuff.
who
Like,
it is.
remembers
And
that
kid was a genius. Like he was like he's one of those kids. He was like you. He had like that mind that he could just sit down and be like, "You're using the wrong word."
Yeah. So it's like but here's the thing: that isn't able to happen anymore. And I'm wondering how well he's teaching now, and not because of his own accord, but because teachers are so tied down on restrictions and everything that what happens is they are teaching to the next state standardized test or the next test that they have to do within their own school and everything. And teachers are quitting all over the country and writing public letters saying that they've become a machine, that they just regurgitate information that they're given. They don't have the ability to creatively teach anymore because there's no time to do that anymore. And as a matter of fact, if you go onto my YouTube channel, scroll down pretty far, I have a lot of videos on there now, but there's a video, and you can actually search for this specifically. It's the Generation Y Conservative, a breakup letter with public education. I pushed that video like no one's business because it was actually recorded in a TV studio for when I was offered my own TV show. And it's a breakup letter with public education that states everything that's going on with public education right now. And it essentially says that you want our teachers to be more like a Google search result than a human being, regurgitating information, and that's it, But yeah, you were going into that. All right, so let's keep on going with politics. Anthony Weiner. Are you guys familiar with him and what's been going on with that?
That scandal was 3-4 years now.
Well, it's been ongoing. He keeps on getting caught. Do you know who this is? Or
yeah.
Not? Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I know who it is.
I mean, you would think with a last name like that, you would try to stay away from those
that.
types of
That's
but
it's fitting.
There you go. He keeps on getting
maybe
his
yes,
wiener
maybe
caught.
no. I don't know. He keeps getting his wiener caught and things.
So he was actually sentenced to 21 months in prison in a case where he was actually sexting with a 15-year-old.
That's it.
And yes, I am ashamed that I have to use that word, sexting, while referring to this article. I regret that we have gotten to a part of our society and time frame where that is actually a term that is used. But
Classy.
yeah, it is. Yeah, it ties it up pretty nicely, I guess.
Classy.
Former Representative Anthony Weiner was sentenced Monday to 21 months in federal prison for sexting with a minor. In May, Weiner, who's 53, pleaded guilty to one charge of transferring obscene material to a minor in federal court in Manhattan. The charges stem from communications with the former congressman who had a conversation with a 15-year-old girl on social media sites between January and March of 2016. They added that at the time Weiner was communicating with the girl, he was in contact with 19 other women, a point the defense had to use to argue Weiner did not have an abnormal interest in teenagers. In addition to the prison term, Weiner also was sentenced to 3 years of supervised release. Now, that supervised does not refer to Weiner's supervision out of the tinted windows of a creepy white van outside of a local middle school. It's actually supervision on him.
So a flip phone.
Yeah, exactly. So Weiner, the estranged husband of Uma Abedin, Hillary Clinton's former advisor, cried when the sentence was handed down. The charge carries a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison, which he won't get, unfortunately. And these political people, they get away with everything, unfortunately. I lost my place here, so I'm just catching up. Oh, here. Prosecutors recommended a sentence of 21 to 27 months in jail, arguing Weiner's pattern of behavior suggests a dangerous level of denial and lack of self-control, warranting a meaningful incarceratory sentence. Defense attorneys asked that Weiner receive probation. Yes, I just did say Weiner's pattern of behavior. So during the 2016 campaign, it was revealed that emails from Hillary Clinton containing classified information were forwarded by Abedin to a computer used by Weiner. A decision by former FBI Director James Comey to alert Congress just days before the election. That was a huge thing. I do believe that played into her loss, actually. About his agency's investigation into messages potentially related to Clinton's personal server has been cited by Clinton as a key reason she lost the presidential race. Which just goes to show you, even a high-profile feminist like Hillary Clinton can be brought down quickly by a wiener. So to me, this guy... I think, again, I've brought this up before in podcasts. I've been meaning to, but there's apparently a document on Netflix called Weiner, okay? Mm-hmm. And it's the camera people following him around in the midst of, like, before, during, and after everything hits him with this. Mm-hmm. And the cameras capture everything. And apparently it is a phenomenal documentary to watch because you just watch, like, the downfall of this guy. It's almost like it's watching a train wreck, they say, and it's supposedly really good to watch as far as how well it was put together and everything.
It's supposedly really good to watch this guy's life be destroyed on video.
I'm just wondering why was it?
He deserved it though.
Yeah,
I think his name is the one that made it a big story because this happens for people, sexting people underage every day, and why him? Obviously, from his platform he's on, but it's almost like the how much news coverage it got for something like that's so common. Unfortunately, how common it is to be this big.
You believe he was profiled because of his name?
Yeah. Well, not profiled, but you would think the story got so much bigger because of it.
That's where our country's got to.
It's true.
Last name profiling.
Yeah. Well, it's like
it's true though. I agree with you 100%, man. Yeah. It definitely adds to the
I actually cut out from last week's podcast an article that was talking about how there's currently between 12 and 15 Democrats that are under investigation or have been found to be doing this type of activity. And that was just on the Democrats. I don't know how many. There's got to be some on the Republican side too. It's a bad behavior.
They're
obviously.
tapping feet in Montana. It's different.
I think that was Jersey, actually. Under the stalls?
Yeah.
The gay code?
Yeah, wasn't he from Montana? Jersey.
I thought he was... No, it was Jersey. It was unfortunately closer to home. But then again, it was Jersey.
I mean, I feel like there's an easy way to
You're
stop
from
the
Jersey,
whole.
right?
There's a whole like easy way to stop the Anthony Weiner situation. Just like put a picture of him up. You have your whole life to look forward to.
He always looks like a surprised chicken.
That's what I'm saying. Like you're 15, you have your whole life to look forward to. Like,
yeah, it's
look at this man.
it's like talk about birth control.
Yeah, look at what are you doing?
So I hate to jump back and forth between topics here and everything, but Joe, who was just talking to us before, actually sent another message that I think is relevant and not that it shows that we're not blowing smoke about what we're talking about. From a personal situation, she said, as a prior preschool teacher, our curriculum used to be free for us to create. However, towards the end of my career in teaching, I began working with toddlers, the preschool. I was working for giving us their own creative curriculum to the point where everything was already preset for us. There was literally no room for our creativity. It had already been set by someone else. So exactly what I was talking about. And that's exactly was exactly the problem that I was seeing within the school district. As a matter of fact, I don't want to go too much back onto this and everything again. Just one quick point. Half a century ago, not even probably, the school board, local school boards for school districts had the ability to control, at least steer the rudder in the direction for public education of their students on where things were going. If you're elected to a school board now, you sit there and you listen to federal mandates being brought down on you that you have no control over, that you have to do, and you bob your head. There's no vote yes or no. You don't get a choice on things. They are telling you what you have to do. And it's almost to the point where the only purpose of a school board anymore has little to do with education and more to do with budgetary concerns. That's it. And it's really unfortunate because we should be able to control on the local level what our students are learning, especially if we have the ability to learn above and push our students above the bar of expectation for the nation.
Mediocrity is key.
Yep, unfortunately. So, speaking of high-profile people, the New York Post believes that the Democrats' best hopes for recapturing the presidential office come 2020. You guys, you know who it is, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oprah Winfrey. So they said if any figure in the United States bears watching over the next couple of years as our political culture continues the radical transformation that led to the election of Donald Trump, it's Oprah. I believe she's uniquely positioned, should she wish to commit herself, not to the insane asylum, to seek the Democratic nomination for president and challenge Trump. That was kind of a tongue twister there, in 2020. And this was according to John Podhoretz, I guess is how you say his name.
Friends with Weiner.
Yeah. If you need to set a thief to catch a thief, you need a star, a grand, outsized, I don't know why I threw that in there, fearless star whom Trump can neither intimidate nor outshine. To catch a star. We're through the looking glass here. America is discarding old approaches in politics. Democrats will have to do the same to match the mood to the moment. Interesting things going on right here in that statement right there. I think he's right. The game of politics has completely changed. I don't believe for the better, okay, at all. That last election, you're right before, no good choices, but it was dirty. It was ugly. You know what I mean? I think there's a good portion of Americans that always say and truly do yearn for someone to tell them why they should vote for them. Not why they should vote against the other person. You know, it's just constantly dragging the other person through the mud, hoping that you look better once you get picked up out of the mud together, right? And I would rather hear someone say, "This is why you should vote for me. This is what I stand for. This is what I'm going to do for you." Not, "This person's a horrible person. You should obviously vote against them," without even saying why they should vote for you. You know what I mean? But at the same time, on the other end of this, they're saying here, Democrats will have to do the same to match the mood of the moment. Here's something that's being thrown around a lot in conservative circles and on radio and stuff like that. Boycotts. Okay? I know it sounds like it's off the beaten path, but it's actually not. Liberals have been boycotting companies and brands and certain people for years to shut them down if they disagree with their political speech or stance on anything, right? Hobby Lobby falls into that kind of circle. There's other big brands too. Chick-fil-A, you know what I mean? Like, especially Christian things. But
That didn't work.
Oh yeah, they're getting killed on it.
Doubled their sales.
but here's the thing.
They got 3 lanes going around that place.
As people on the right, we really believe in capitalism. You know what I mean? And the value of the dollar and how that represents everything for, you know, the value of a company and everything. But conservatives have often shied away from boycotting brands and everything, right? But I'm starting to hear people that were adamantly against boycotting in the past saying, listen, liberals have been doing it to us for years now. It obviously works. We've refused to get down in the dirt and play with them on that game. Maybe it's time we start doing it too, because if it's working for them, it could work for us too. I'm a little afraid of that type of mentality because you're kind of matching wits on a lower level.
I think it's just
instead
basic.
of playing a higher game.
It's basic.
Yeah, but that's essentially what they're saying here is in order to dethrone a reality star from the presidency, you have to fight with a reality star. I mean, they're taking the same approach on the other end of the candlestick. You know what I mean?
I feel like if you sit down at the end of the day, whatever you want to boycott, you can sit there and I will tell you 99.9% of the people that are boycotting, their ideals are always going to give way to necessity.
I agree with
like if I'm sitting there and the only thing, and if I'm sitting there and I want to make Jack and Coke, but the only thing they got is Pepsi, you're gonna grab the Pepsi. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like so, like I feel like the boycotting thing. I think a lot of times it gets blown well farther out of proportion than the actual damage it's doing. Unless it's a small town like this and you're boycotting the general store, now there you could do something. But boycotting multi-billion-dollar a year companies, let's be honest. At the end of the day, you're gonna walk into a gas station somewhere and need a toothbrush, and if that company makes that toothbrush and that's the only place you can get a toothbrush, you're gonna pick that toothbrush up.
But at the same time, we were talking about Target earlier and their losses in stocks when they took that position.
Yeah, but I feel like it's different. Like I see where we're going with this. If it's something like that where it's something that you're going to be directly exposed to, like we just said about, like you said about the shirt. Like if it's something basic like that, like a product, I guess.
Yeah.
Like you're at Target, you're not boycotting a product. You're boycotting an ideal.
Yeah,
It's a little different. Like people stand by their ideals, but necessity is always going to come. I'm telling you, if I was cold and the only sweatshirt was the OCD Christmas sweatshirt, guess who's wearing that OCD Christmas sweatshirt?
I think you would wear that in the summer with the sleeves covered.
Just take it down. Why not? I clip off. But yeah, I agree.
Anything else on that at all?
Nah, I got nothing for that. I think it's kind of basic.
So he went on with this. He said, that's where Oprah Winfrey comes in. She is a mirror image of Trump, but more so. Of course, she's female and he's male. She's America's generous aunt and he's America's crazy uncle. And yes, she's black and he's white. She's liberal and he's whatever he is. I go along with that every time.
Absolutely.
It goes beyond that. He's rich and she's rich, but she made her $3 billion herself and with no controversy. She is, in herself, the embodiment of the American dream. I will give her that. I said that actually last week or the week before. I do not like Oprah. And as a matter of fact, I've read news stories about how horrible she is to people around her. Right? Yeah. But I respect the hell out of where she came from and how she got to be, because she built her empire.
Because you're what? A Republican, and you believe in capitalism.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's what it is. You like, as from a Republican, this is a liberal who made every dollar she ever made.
Yep.
From a Republican standpoint,
and that's the thing.
Of sitting there saying,
"How do you stand?
You
for
believe
the other
that
side?
You could be the best you could possibly be. You could do anything you want in the world. You don't have to settle for mediocrity." And she doesn't. Makes every dollar she has ever made from whose viewpoint.
And you would think that because she did that, she would recognize the value of that kind of system that nurtured her, and be on the other side of the equation and support the ideals of capitalism and everything.
I mean, this may seem stupid, but I've thought about this. There's only 1,500 billionaires in the world out of almost 8 billion people. And for the most part, I'm not saying all 1,500 billionaires, but if you get to a billionaire, you have in my opinion, a very high level of intelligence to get to that point because it is very, very, very difficult to acquire that amount of wealth. It just is. So, I mean, if you have that billionaire status, in my opinion, you have a very high level of intelligence. So, I mean,
you've also probably knocked off
exactly
from some friends and family members
of course.
from the Christmas list.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay. So
Will she beat him? I don't know, but she's got endless funds. That helps.
it's worth noting.
Never hurts.
Never hurts to have endless funds.
Never hurts.
This is exactly what they said. It goes right along with what you just said there. It's worth remembering that Oprah played a not insubstantial role in the 2008 election.
Oh yeah, we know.
Her decision to endorse Barack Obama after his campaign failed to catch fire in its first 8 months in 2007 proved the initial accelerant that took him from 25 points back to winning the nomination away from Hillary Clinton. That woman has just been trampled.
She deserves everything she gets.
Oh my gosh.
How many times has she tried to run for something? 4 now?
For president twice.
Yeah, but the
She
nomination...
did get senator of New York.
Didn't she try to run for the nomination once before that? I
don't think so.
feel like she's tried to run for everything at least once.
Unfortunately, it doesn't end for...
I feel like it just keeps coming.
Well, unfortunately, I keep on saying this. Our generation...
I feel like I'm on Weiner sexting.
Our generation has grown up with repeat, monarchies almost, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Bushes keep on getting in. The Clintons keep on trying to get back in. Michelle is going to run at some freaking point in time, right? And if it's not Hillary Clinton running again, it's going to be Chelsea Clinton running at some point. And it's like, we can't get rid of these freaking families and get them out of office so we can have something different in there.
Why won't
we keep on ending up with these?
How about Donald Jr.?
Oh my gosh. The one funny thing about that is, I forget who made the comment, but they really do. Eric, maybe, or whichever one, they said he looks like a Bond villain.
That's actually very funny. I'm just thinking like the guys you can pick from 007 Goldeneye. He's one of them.
The old N6.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Oh man. So it's talking about her being on the side of Barack Obama, but I would also, that's what he wrote. I would also mention that she also attended the same radical anti-American rants from Reverend Wright, famous for his "Not God Bless America, God D America" speech in church at one point in time too during his one sermon. But he said Oprah can't just be the anti-Trump. She would have to find a transcendent...
She's the Antichrist.
Yeah. she would have to find a transcendent message of her own that rose above Democratic constituent service and spoke to the right people, to the right states, to take the fight to Trump's underbelly. And that's actually good advice, okay, is the fact that you can't run on being anti the other person. What we were talking about before, you have to run on something and tell the people why they should vote for you, not because you're anti that other person. You know what I mean? Good?
Yeah.
Anything more on Oprah?
I could care less about Oprah at the end of the day.
You get welfare and you get welfare. Check under your seat.
I feel like I just, honest to God, if I see Oprah on TV, what I want to see her doing is beating the hell out of Dr. Phil. Celebrity deathmatch. Just jam him in there.
The old claymation.
Just beat the hell out of each other, please. I can't stand him. I can't stand her. If you both leave with a broken jaw, I'm the winner.
I think they're actually friends. He started his career.
Yeah. That's why I want to see him beat the hell out of each other. Are we crazy?
Again, like I said, I don't know.
I want to see him go back and analyze her. Is what I want.
There's
an
opportunity for Oprah to do real good in the world. I really do believe that, because I think that if she would just self-reflect on how she's gotten to where she is and recognize that this is a country that provided those opportunities and it's hard work, and she can project those ideals on different communities in the United States to show that it's possible and everything.
Look at your president now.
What about him?
This is what I'm going to tell you. If you got that kind of money, put it somewhere else, but stay the hell out of politics because you're killing us. Like, he's doing the same thing. He's got all that money. He has all that knowledge. I mean, he did run Celebrity Apprentice, correct? Like that. And what are you teaching people how to do? That's what he's best at. All right. Yeah. But coming into politics, she's going to do the exact same thing. And the Democratic Party is going to be like praising her with the highest angels. It's going to be the exact same thing we're looking at now. It's not going to be any different because this is what you have. You have two people who have an absolute power complex. Mm-hmm. And that's what you're putting in charge of a bunch of people who are just basically trying to make ends meet now. And that doesn't work. Go do business, do your thing, donate your money, do what Oprah does. Like, you know, she's running schools in Africa and whatever she does makes things so great. You know, like, I know she gives a lot to charity, but like I said before, I don't care about her, so I don't follow her. You know what I mean? I didn't care about Trump. I didn't follow him either. Like, their background, where your money goes, everybody's always like, oh, well, his money went here, there. It's his money.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
He's not taking a salary either.
He's not taking a salary. It's his money at the end of the day. What the hell do you care? Like, but the thing is, if you show Oprah in that same position, you're going to have exactly what you have now. If not exponentially worse, because it's 2 in a row. Yeah. Like, we saw what 2 in a row did last time, didn't we?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You just feel like if Oprah runs, every single person who voted for Hillary will vote for her, and every single person who voted for Trump will vote for him.
Exactly.
That's what it feels like. Could I be wrong?
It's the exact same thing.
Maybe I could be wrong, but that's I would say it's 99%.
A few more will vote for Oprah, though, because Trump's mouth has managed to irritate.
A lot can happen in the next 3 years, obviously.
What's crazy, though, is the fact that they've tried to make Trump such a polarizing figure that you would think you'd have to be ultra right wing in order to be someone that's a fan of him, right? I've never met so many Democrats that have supported a Republican president before. Like, where I work right now, up north, every day I go to, every day I'm meeting Democrats that praise the hell out of him.
But look at us. When was the last time you sat at a table with a bunch of Republicans who were like, there's just some stuff about this guy that pisses me off. Yeah. You know what I mean? It works both ways. It's like we're sitting here, and I mean, it's not new. At the end of the day, it's pretty much neutral. Like, he's got people on the other side that appreciate what he's doing policy-wise. But those of us that were Republican started, like, yo, watch what comes out of your mouth because you're speaking for all of us now.
Exactly.
With that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And
that's what I'm saying. Like, the same thing with the millennials earlier. Find the few that are blacking your eye and fix them. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where I'm at with this.
So, let's go off of Trump, actually. Remember how the media tried to pin Russia collusion on Trump? It's actually hard to forget when it's actually still happening with no concrete evidence yet. But according to the Daily Mail, Russians used Facebook ads to seed chaos. Have you heard about this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You have?
Yeah.
So they were actually putting up ads for Black Lives Matter messages in Baltimore and anti-immigrant posts in swing states. Now, that's not exactly pro-Trump messaging right there. CNN reported on Wednesday on the Black Lives Matter ads saying they appeared on Facebook in late 2015 or early 2016 and were geographically targeted to hit audiences in Ferguson, Missouri, and Baltimore, Maryland, where they might resonate the most. If you're familiar with events that happened in those very cities, obviously they went after those types of people. I should say that was the wrong way. But obviously they were catering to a specific audience, targeting them. Right?
I'm going to let you know right now, if I look at you and go like this.
Okay.
That doesn't work.
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
ABC News then reported on an anti-immigrant Facebook group called Secured Borders, which looked like the product of a grassroots American movement, but was actually manned by Russians trying to influence the U.S. election. What I personally find crazy is that CNN and ABC are actually reporting something for once and actually doing the right thing for news. You know,
you'd be surprised. Snuck up on everyone.
The aim of these ads and groups was to sow discontent among voters and add more fuel to an already toxic and polarized political climate. Earlier this month, Facebook announced that the company had found that it had sold around 3,000 ads to accounts based out of Russia. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg has also said he is handing those ads over to congressional investigators who are probing Russia's meddling in the 2016 presidential election. Do you know that he's actually being talked about for running too?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
He's got even more endless funds than her.
Yeah, I think so.
He definitely does.
No, he definitely does. He's got money coming out the
He's got
wazoo.
10 times the money she
How
has.
would he find the platform to
I have no idea.
Yeah, how would he ever get his message out?
You wouldn't be able to compete with that.
No.
You would not be able
Atheist.
to compete
He's an
with that.
atheist, I think.
You could,
Zuckerberg
and
is.
he could literally.
When you get that much money,
you think
you
about
start
that.
to
Not
think,
only,
"Oh,
not only can you advertise using
endlessly
that,
for free.
but not only that, you could cut off the opponent's
Correct.
advertising. It's a private organization.
Yeah.
He has a right to do whatever he wants with it.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
He's
look,
almost a shoe-in for the position.
It's almost like if you're him, why would you want to be the president of the U.S.? Why? I know. Why would you?
You'd ask the same question if you were Donald Trump or Oprah Winfrey, though.
Yeah.
It's a power complex, and people with power complex do that. It's just to say, oh, what'd you do? Put that on your resume. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just a thing.
Did you see what
to
happened
them.
on my YouTube channel?
No.
It was
They light it on fire?
demonetized last week.
Why?
Because I don't know.
Because you don't
Conservative
know.
voice.
Nice.
So they stopped allowing advertising on my channel. Again, they have every right to do that. It's a private organization, but
It's grimy.
it should be spotlighted. Obviously.
Yeah.
He's probably just right around the age cutoff. He got to be 35. He's probably right there, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think he's in his late 30s.
Oh, is he? Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Because of the sophistication of the targeting, congressional investigators are wondering if the Russians had American help, which could be interesting. Both Congress and Special Counsel Robert Mueller are looking for evidence of Russia collusion with the Trump campaign. Of course, they're trying to. It's not even looking everywhere else. Like, it's just right at that. And if they can't find something, they're just going to continue looking that way and never widen the scope of search. You know what I mean?
Here, widen the scope of search of this. How basic are we as a country that we have now started riots based on Facebook posts?
Oh, that's.
And it's worked.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's worked.
Has, yeah.
It was functional. Facebook has dictated. They're saying Facebook has dictated our presidency.
Yeah.
No, not me. I know how to I have, what do you call those things? We just talked about them. Oh yeah, critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see something on Facebook and go, that's like watching late night TV and immediately getting the Ronco food dehydrator because you think you need it. You know what I mean? You don't need that. Like, think a little.
I don't want to sound demeaning, but the average American citizen is pretty smart, right? But as a whole, with a groupthink mentality, they're dumb as
Sheeple.
bricks. Yeah.
Sheeple mentality. That's how the military gets you to run into bullets. Because alone you're like, that's dumb, but when everybody else is doing
he's
it,
going?
you're like, yeah, bro.
Let's do it.
Take the hill.
I gotta catch up.
Take the hill. Take the hill.
He's winning. I gotta get ahead of him.
Oh.
So the guy said,
Jump him.
The guy said, did they know this just by following political news in America? Did they geo-target both geographically and by demographics in ways that at least at first blush appear pretty sophisticated? And this was according to Senator Mark Warner, a Democrat of Virginia. So, again, this is just coming back to constantly trying to pin Russia things on Trump and never widening that scope. But we just went over that. Okay. So I didn't talk to you guys about this before the podcast started. I know your stance on the NFL. Okay.
Standing on its throat right now.
I saw your video and everything. So I know you're going to disagree with me. Okay. But the other side's going to disagree with me too. I'm going to be hated by both sides by the end of this. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I have a rant. Okay. I literally said, you ever see that meme?
I have
online?
a rant too. Go ahead. I'd love to hear yours.
Did you ever see that meme online from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Charlie's like at like this like evidence board of like strings going everywhere and he's going like this, he's like tweaking out trying to explain something.
Yeah.
That's essentially what I was doing this week, right? I took a notepad while I was working, and while I was in the car I'm thinking, okay, I want to talk about this bullet point, this point, this point. I started organizing them into different sections on what they go to and everything. So here's what I'm going to ask in regards to this NFL controversy. I am going to go on a rant.
Okay.
And it's a lot of points. It's coming from more angles than have been covered before with this. And I just ask you guys to just hold off and respond once we get to the end of it. Okay?
I mean,
Sounds good.
And we'll go one by one.
I got-
I'll give you as much time as you want to respond to it. And if you want to conversate after that, I'm more than happy to do that.
I'm
We
gonna
got
need
another
about 4 seconds. at
got
the end of it.
another 45 minutes about it
Yeah.
to fill up the 3-hour time slot. And if we don't make that, that's okay, as long as,
Yeah.
whatever. So I'm just gonna go right off of this then, okay? So we're gonna talk about the NFL controversy here of what's been going on, because I have a lot to say in regards to multiple angles associated with this topic. I've asked my guests tonight to allow me to do this before they actually get into the discussion, obviously, what I just said. As you may know, toward the end of the Obama administration, 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick came under fire for kneeling during the national anthem, a protest he was asked about in August 2016, to which he responded, "I'm not going to stand up to show pride in a flag for a country that oppresses black people and people of color. To me, this is bigger than football, and it would be selfish on my part to look the other way. There are bodies in the street and people getting paid leave and getting away with murder." This ties very much into the general message of police brutality involving the black community. This is not what he said, that's over with. To bring you up to date quickly, last week at an Alabama rally, President Trump stated, "Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, 'Get that son of a B off the field right now, out, he's fired, he's fired.'" In response to that, teams all over the NFL decided to unify behind the message and kneel in solidarity and protest. But here's some things you need to think about. The Kaepernick protest and this past weekend's around the league are completely different. One was a protest against police brutality and injustice involving black Americans. The league's response this past weekend was directed at President Trump, telling him that he has no right to tell anyone how their free speech should work or be dictated. And honestly, they're right about that. Trump acted like a dictator would. Kim Jong-un's family is used to making their citizens stand at attention and fake cry when the supreme leader passes by. Is this actually what we want in our country? Do we want our president telling us how we're supposed to act? Does that mean that Trump is completely wrong? No, actually. Free speech is a blessing much of the world doesn't have, but it doesn't excuse you from the consequences either. The NFL teams are owned and are employers, and employers have a right to fire if they want. So, and a good example of this would be, I have every right to freedom of speech. If I want to stand up in the middle of a company meeting and spout off about how much I hate my boss, I can do that. But that's not going to stop my boss from firing me. Okay?
No, it
I
will
can't
not.
claim freedom of speech on that. So let's talk about the original protest with Kaepernick first. Colin Kaepernick and others are upset that black men and women and children are being killed by the police in what many believe are high numbers. Statistics of high crime rates per race are irrelevant. If the argument is that we need to cut down on police homicide of innocent black Americans, this is a goal we should all actively promote and push for. The problem is sometimes cops aren't found guilty because the person that the public deemed innocent actually wasn't, and a portion of society would rather see a race war and push that agenda over truth. But that isn't to say that innocents aren't being killed. Adam Carolla also pointed out that while there are certainly racist cops out there, what some would consider racist may pull over a white person next and be a real a-hole to them, and it may turn out that this cop is just an a-hole all the time. But the assumption has already been laid that he must be a racist. We hold civil rights leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. in high regard because, unlike Malcolm X, who said by any means necessary, King was able to protest peacefully. And while Colin certainly has caused a stir, was his protest not a peaceful one instead of rioting and burning down places? Now, when Tommy Lahren showed up on The Daily Show with Trevor Noah after months of criticizing Kaepernick for his protest methods, Noah asked Lahren how a black man like him should protest. It left her without an answer, spotlighting the fact that she had never thought about it past her surface anger. So let's take a look at that in exchange right there.
Here's the deal.
So here's a black man in America who says, I don't know how to get a message across. If I march in the streets, people say I'm a thug. If I go out and I protest, people say that it's a riot. If I bend down on one knee, then it's not. What is the right way? That is something I've always wanted to know. What is the right way for a black person to get attention in America?
Taking it out, Trevor, taking it out on our flag and our national anthem, to me.
But how?
Why would you take out your perceived oppression of black people out on the national anthem and our flag? A country that you live in, a country that you benefit from, a country that people of all races have died for, have died to protect, have died for the vote, died to be enfranchised by this nation. How do you then go and disrespect the flag and the anthem of that country?
Well,
why is that the out?
What I'm saying is, I asked you one question, and that is, how should a black person bring up their grievances? That's all I ask, how? If that's not the right way, if marching isn't the right way, what is the right way?
What he said was he is protesting the anthem and the flag because of the oppression of black people in this country. I would like him to further explain what he's talking about when he's discussing the black oppression in this country.
Which he has.
Also, is it against police? Is it against the government? I'm not sure what oppression he's discussing. I would love to have him come on my show and discuss it with me. To me, when you make the flag and you make the anthem the outlet for your anger, or the outlet through which you're going to protest your country that you live in and you reside in, that you take $19 million a year from, I don't think that that is the correct outlet for your anger. So what is he protesting? So he's...
Again, you haven't answered my question of how you want black people. I'm just asking how. And I'm asking you honestly, I'm not saying in a challenging way. I'm saying to you, I don't know the answer apart from these methods. So I would like to know if you've ever thought of a how, because you're the first person I've met who said this. I've seen this message online. I'm not labeling you as the bad person. I just want to know if you've ever thought of the how. That's all I want to know.
For me, I think there are a lot of folks in this country. I, being a woman, I didn't have rights after black people until women got the right to vote. But because I feel like I'm a woman and I'm marginalized in some way, I don't protest my country. I don't see what he's protesting. I would like to know exactly what he is protesting. It's a very...
So how do you, how do you protest then? That's what
I don't protest because I'm not a victim.
Before I go on there, I just want to say I'm not a fan of Trevor Noah at all. I don't find him funny. I don't find his discourse that intelligent, but he was spot on here. She did not have an answer. 3 times in a row, he asked her how should Kaepernick protest? And she kept on going over other things. She kept on dodging the subject, which just goes to show that after months of criticizing the guy, it comes back to what we were talking about earlier. She didn't have a solution. Mm-hmm. When you don't have a solution, there's a bigger problem at hand. The problem with Kaepernick's protest is that the messaging doesn't work. Yes, it got people talking. Yes, it got people to pay attention. But no, the vast, overwhelming majority of people still have no clue why exactly he's protesting. The messaging didn't work because the protest took the attention he wanted on his issue and put it on the patriotic symbolism of the flag and anthem. Americans were upset that he would disrespect these traditions and were so outraged at his actions that they couldn't care less about looking into his reasons. They were now laser focused on their own anger issue. The real question is, why aren't more questions being asked? I have some for Kaepernick and others that support him. What is the end goal? Is there a tangible goal that you're working towards that is achievable? The answer is when police are locked up for killing innocent blacks. I'm sorry, if the answer is that when the police are locked up for killing innocent black Americans, I have some news for you. The news industry standard is if it bleeds, it leads. You are only going to get spotlighted stories about the horrors out there, like police shootings, and everything good involving cops and minorities won't make the news. So if it at least peters out, will you stand again? If your goal is tangible, is it a moving target? Once we reach wherever it is, will there be another issue that keeps your knee to the field? I have a feeling there will be, because there's always something more that can be done in any case, no matter what the subject is that we're talking about. So the other question is, how do you expect one side of the equation to change and not the other? I've watched online videos of families having the talk with their kids about how to act around cops if you're a minority. To me, you are instilling in their minds that cops are all bad and can't ever be trusted. To me, that has led to some of the backlash against cops in minority communities that raises the defense mechanisms of both sides. So if you're expecting cops to change their ways, will the minority community change theirs as well towards cops? Is it one before the other? I believe it would have to be both worked on at the same time in order for any real change to occur. Now we've talked about Kaepernick's protests and where I agree. Let me piss off the other side and take the ground with the other side of the equation. The flag and national anthem should be a sign of unity for all American people. If you want unity, it seems counterproductive to protest the symbols of it. I don't want politics in any of my entertainment unless I'm paying for it. If I want to go see that Hamilton play on Broadway, that's a political play. I know I'm paying for it before I go in there. If I wake up and there happens to be an award show, the Emmys or the Academy Awards on TV, which I would never turn on, I'd have to wake up in that scenario on the couch with that on the TV. They're talking about entertainment. I don't want political scolding
on morals in the political realm coming from them and bashing the president on either side. I don't want conservative actors doing it to liberal presidents either. I want to pay, if I'm paying for my entertainment with either my money or my time, in the case of NFL, I might not be at the game. I might just be watching on TV, but I am investing my time into that. I don't want to hear about politics. As a matter of fact, I watch this stuff and do this kind of stuff to get away from daily life. This is my entertainment. This is my escape.
Yeah.
I don't need more of the same crap all the time. The problem that both sides are having is that they're all suffering from a massive case of hypocrisy. Those that agree with Kaepernick having the right to not participate in the anthem are the same people that would likely say that small business owners shouldn't be allowed to not participate in religious ceremonies that jive with their religious beliefs. Those that agree with the teams that they should have the right to speak up against the president for his policy ideas are the same ones that immediately jumped to calling those on the right bigots and racists for opposing Obama's policies. Does that mean that the right aren't hypocrites? Absolutely not. Isn't it those on the right that have been upset for weeks for the temper tantrums that liberals, Antifa, and others were and are throwing over stationary statues? Those statues weren't hurting anyone. Is a player peacefully kneeling on the field hurting you or anybody else? Are you one of the people that burned and destroyed your NFL gear out of protest against the protests like these people?
There are a lot of people that fought and died for that flag, and to disrespect it yesterday like you did, I'm done.
Yeah, my father was a Marine, my grandfather was in the Army, my uncle was in the Army. Our
right.
son is in the Army currently.
Oh, say, can you see by the... This is my protest to you, you freaking goofball. Forget you, Steve Bisciotti. You should fire this guy. There's my Terrell Suggs jersey right there. And any other Raven that freaking kneels down for it.
That video goes on and on of a bunch of people that were spotlighted on YouTube of actually destroying their gear. But did it happen to be that you may have been one of the people complaining about the leftists destroying things in public to make a point? And yes, I get the fact that this is private property versus public property, but making an online video of it is making a public show of how to make a point of it. How about all of you home spectators? You're a little different on this, and I'll point that out. When you gather up your pretzels, popcorns, chicken wings, beer, chips, and hot dogs and lay them out for the game on the big screen TV, do you stop, stand up, take off your hats and salute, or hold your hand over your chest while the anthem is played before you watch the game? Or do you continue sitting there or talking to the people around you or throwing another beer pong ball? Now, you said you actually do get up. And if that's the case, don't be a hypocrite. Actually stand up and do it.
Every time that plane flames, I get off my butt and I am standing.
Here's the ultimate question for you. Where does being mad get you? Anger, like the other core emotions, is an easy emotion to tap into, but in the end, if no one is hurt by the actions of these players and you stand for the flag while they kneel, why would you end up letting that emotion run your life? So how do I wrap up this topic? I can at least give some advice as an observer of the situation. If you're the type of person that keeps on looking into the past and pitting one skin color against another for past transgressions, and you use that as an excuse or roadblock for your inability as a person or group of people to tread forward in life, you need to change your perspective. There are two main authors in your life, and we talked about this earlier, you and God. If you're blaming anyone else for how your life is turning out, it is because you either handed the pen to your book over or allowed it to be taken out of your hand. If you're going to talk about the overall problem in the country being a lack of unity among races, then you have to stop using statements that contain "my people." When either party does that, it immediately raises the wall between the arguers and cuts you off from exactly what you're trying to obtain, which is unity. I would hope that you and I would both have the goal that by saying "my people" would eventually apply to all skin colors together. You need to accept things like the flag for the good and bad that it represents, but allowing the bad to outweigh the good is a personal choice. If I could give you just enough money to live in any country you would like, would you still pick America? If you do pick America, why? I'm guessing it's because for all the bad history that we have, you realize that it's still good and presents more opportunities for even the poorest among us that live in the world that gives us the most access to those opportunities. At least hold on to that when you look upon the flag or hear the anthem. I've seen a lot of Jackie Robinson pics of his quote, "I cannot stand and sing the anthem. I cannot salute the flag. I know that I am a black man in a white world," in support of this protest. Well, times have changed since then. Maybe not enough. Maybe there is a lot to be worked on yet. But to say that nothing has changed or that white people are still just as racist is to spit in the face of all of us who are trying to understand and support the cause in whatever way we can. So how should these protests work? This kills me as an Eagles fan. Absolutely kills me to the point. But I think that the Dallas Cowboys did the right thing this past weekend.
Classic.
They knelt before the anthem and stood up for the anthem. One thing that was mentioned multiple times over the last week, and by Kaepernick as well, is that this is by no means a protest that digs at the military and that they respect the military and what they have done for their freedoms. And with that, I hand the platform over to one of our veterans to respond to both me and the protests themselves.
It's the simplest of things, and I'll make it real quick and simple for you. Do I disagree with your protest? Do I deny you your right to protest? No. I agree. If you're unhappy, protest. By all means, protest your knee off. That's fine. The problem is there's a time and place for that. Mm-hmm. All right? And that's the biggest thing. Like you said, well, how do I protest? Well, you protest however you want, but you protest at the proper time and place. As soon as your protest starts to desecrate the memory of another, and they sit there and they say constantly, they're like, oh, well, what's the flag have to do with that? What's the red in that flag stand for?
Blood.
The blood shed for that nation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the thing. You say, oh, well, what's this? All right, well, Colin Kaepernick, if your father passes, I'm not going to go take a knee on his grave and protest the Wendy's 4 for $4 because I don't like it. I understand it's not the same big, it's not that thing, but you have to understand, every single day we still have people coming home dead from war. Mm-hmm. Every knee you take is on that last man, or that kid, 18-year-old's soul you're taking a knee on. Every single Sunday you take that knee. Because that's what the red in that flag stands for.
Oh, I know what that is.
And that's the thing. That's what we fail to realize. You think this is a symbol. They say that they sit there and claim that the flag's the vessel. No. You are the vessel. But the flag is a symbol for what? What is the flag a symbol for at the end of the day? Freedom. That's what you want, right? Why desecrate the one thing that stands for what you believe? It's what you want.
But if you take a step back, I think the problem that we always have is that we're right up against it. We're looking at it for exactly what you're looking at it for, which is what it symbolizes, and you take offense to what you see behind it, right? If I take a step back and I look at this guy kneeling down, which oftentimes this is simple of prayer in any other case, you know what I mean? Is he hurting anybody?
I don't know. It was Tim Tebow. They made him stop.
And that's my point too.
They made him stop. They said, oh, you can't do that.
Did he stop? Did he stop? He doesn't play anymore, but...
Yeah, he stopped altogether. Yeah. Went to baseball. And
that's the hypocrisy of the left.
Correct. And trust me, I understand that, like, we sit there and we say it's a nonviolent protest, but by doing that, you have to also realize that you're inciting violence from another group. Like, another group is obviously sitting there. You saw the Green Bay Packers game last night?
Yeah, actually.
All right, I'm done then. You looked at those stands, and everybody's like, no, this is irritating us. This isn't what this is about.
But, okay, so that's another good point. In the game last night, and I didn't watch it, but I was updated by someone about
Center.
it. They stood arm in arm during the anthem, right? They didn't kneel.
No.
So why was that disrespectful?
Did you see? I'm not saying that it was disrespectful. I'm saying, did you see the fans?
Yeah, apparently they booed them or something.
That was at the Dallas game. They booed them. But the fans, they took pictures of the stands, and all the fans, they don't want to interlock arms with you. The fans, the vast, overwhelming majority, is standing up straight with their hand over their heart. They're like, we're not buying into this. Because what the NFL has done now is perverted their message.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
To the umpteenth degree. And once you perverted your message as soon as it, and I said this when I posted my thing, as soon as it became sexy to kneel, it stopped becoming a purpose. Yeah. It started becoming a catchphrase. And that's the bottom line. You're just doing it because the guy next to you is. And then everybody bagged Villanueva for coming out and standing on his, you bagged him for standing on his own.
No, well, see, the thing, okay, so there's other stories that kind of feed into this. Number one, obviously the message is perverted because, like I told you, those two protests didn't have anything to do with each other. One was protesting Trump, while the other one was protesting police brutality. Then you have the Steelers, who I've seen, we're friends with John,
Yeah.
And he posted something and got a lot of comments and everything. I tried to explain the situation, but no one cares to look into things anymore. Tomlin kept his team in to stay out of the controversy. He didn't want to be a part of it. He didn't want his team to have his members singled out on who stood, who knelt, and everything. And what did they do in the locker room? No one knows, and that's the way it kind of should be at the same time.
Then why does the quarterback feel so guilty? Why does the head of the team, the captain of the team, feel so?
Or the what's his name?
Roethlisberger. Why does the captain of your team feel so bad if you feel you were doing the right thing? Like, I feel like that's a huge
because of the public misperception.
But here, the public perception is this: at the end of the day, if you were Mike Tomlin, you know how I said time and place. Yeah. Like, it's time and place, but at the same time, know your personnel, bro. No, the man. 3 tours. Did you really expect him
I know that,
to sit in the locker room? That is
that might be a misconception of the story too, because apparently the hallway there that they were in is so small. He was like kind of pushed up to the front and happened to fall into the camera's glance. Basically,
he was yards outside of them. It wasn't even
That's what
close.
Was said, yeah.
I was looking at it from every angle.
He apologized for it.
For what?
I don't think he should have.
For what?
No, I don't think he should have.
He apologized, and then literally a day later, Roethlisberger comes out and is like, "I feel like crap for this." Roethlisberger's like, "We screwed the pooch here." You know what I mean? He's the captain of your team at the end of the day.
While I saw a lot of these Jackie Robinson memes going around with that quote and everything, one other thing that you know what I'm talking about.
Oh no, I know. I saw it.
One of the other things I saw too. If you guys watch news, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If something happens, it's like ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, MSNBC, and all these liberal news networks have the same it's like a memo goes out. They all say the same verbiage. Like, there's a key word that you always pick up on that they're all saying, right? And it's like I said, it's like a memo goes out. All of a sudden, Kaepernick's been doing this protest for how long now? And all of a sudden, you see this other thing going out. And I'm guessing you guys saw it too. Well, the NFL didn't send the players out to the national anthem until 2009 when the Department of Defense paid so many millions of dollars. Previous to 2009, they weren't out in the field until after the anthem. And it's like, man, you guys jumped on pushing that out real quick.
Yeah.
Like, it was like that, and the Jackie Robinson thing was just like flooded out.
That's also not true, because the Super Bowl, the biggest game of the year, they were always out for. You had introductions, and then you had to fly over.
I would look back because they're saying that.
I am almost, because I remember, like, I can almost. Why do so many players remember a flyover then? Think about it.
They might be in the hallway waiting there.
I'm telling you, I'm almost positive. If you look at the amount of players, if you were to ask, go back ask Jim Kelly or Evan Smith, do you remember the flyover? Like, do you remember the flyover? There's pictures of it on YouTube. Watch it. I sent you that video. There's a YouTube video of players describing how they felt during the flyover. And these players go back to, the Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman era of the Super Bowls. You have pictures of them on the sideline watching it. How are you going to tell me they're not out there for that anthem? They have to be. I'm telling you, I watch it and I look at it and I'm like, I don't think anybody gets paid to listen to the national anthem. And if you're getting paid to listen to the
NFL.
NFL is paying somebody. There's something in it for someone.
Screwed up politics.
But I'm saying, if you're getting paid to watch it, you should probably get off your knee. We're paying you to do that. That's your job.
So we didn't allow you to even speak yet. So go ahead.
It's the first time I've ever heard the pre-2009 thing. That seems.
You guys didn't see that out there?
That seems insane to be true.
Yeah.
And I just wouldn't believe it. I mean, I guess I can't say it's not impossible, but I don't know.
Everyone that I've heard of looking into it has found that to be true so far.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Super Bowl may be a different story. I mean, that's also a pretty historic landmark in that person's mind, being there on the Super Bowl field. I mean, that's huge. So it might be different for Super Bowls.
I can just say, but think about it. I think, okay, here's what I'm going to say. It may be that they didn't show the national anthem before every single game. Season game, this, that, the other thing. Because I mean, I can see that. I remember they do. I can safely say that
a lot of times they did. They don't.
They don't.
No.
That's what I'm saying. So, but I'm saying before that, I can definitely remember big games, Super Bowl games and stuff like that, where I'd see athletes out on the field.
Okay.
During the flyover. So, I mean, maybe there's some contractual thing in there that says every game or something like that, but I'm not going to sit there and say that I've never seen that. I mean, I've seen plenty of films like Bruce Smith and stuff like that, looking up at the sky, watching a flyover, and that doesn't come until after a national anthem.
Yeah. It says the Rockets Red Glare part.
And then here's the thing that I can't wrap my mind around, all right? You ready? I'm going to break it down for you. The red in the flag stands for those who we lost, right? Mm-hmm. And all these football players are like, they're sitting out there, you're going to pay millions of dollars, and you take a knee for the national anthem. But if you ask any football player what the most memorable thing of anything is, what is it? Dude, that flyover was sick. Who do you think did that for you? The same people you kneeling on right now. Like, I look at it, I'm like, the different dynamics of what it is. It's like, just time and place, respect each other, Like, if your demonstration, if what you're doing in your demonstration is hurting another group, I say it all the time, I don't understand how the desecration of another person's memory is promoting unity and peace in any way, shape, or form.
I think I disagree with you. And I can respectfully disagree with you, but I think you're allowing it to be a desecration on those people. You know what I mean? Like, if they come out and say, this isn't about the military, I respect the military, that's not the message I'm trying to get across, I kind of feel like they're doing something else there. And I understand why you would take personal offense to that, and why a lot of Americans see it that way.
Well, how couldn't it's almost like, how couldn't you?
Right, I agree with you. But at the same time, they're outright saying that's not what they're protesting.
Irrelevant. It's so irrelevant. It's not even funny. You're Christian, right?
Yeah.
Say I burn your cross. How did you take that? If I sit there, it's like having Jesus without the cross. It's a direct symbolization. Look at my arm, because this stands for what I did.
I know.
So as soon as you step on that, you step on me. It's a direct representation.
I mean, the gist of it is, okay, I get Kaepernick can say, I don't disrespect the military. I don't disrespect our country. I'm literally doing this against police brutality in our country. And the fact that he's kneeling for the anthem, which is to me, it's just the wrong vehicle. And he can say I can't literally find another possible way to protest. To me, is just crap.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's Trevor Noah saying that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, start a fundraiser for more accountability for policemen. Mm-hmm. I mean,
better education.
Put T-shirts on. Put a T-shirt on for your millions of followers. I mean, the fact that this is the only way I could protest, to me, is like, I don't know.
How was it received? Let's put it out that way.
Yeah, well, that's what I talked about the message.
How functional was your protest? Nobody knows what the hell you're protesting.
I said you actually have to research.
What are you kneeling for?
And who's going to put the time in?
Well, not only that, but has this protest in any way changed police brutality?
Nope.
No.
Then that's the gist
get
of
off
it.
my flag, because what I do every day changes something. What these people do every day changes something. What you're doing is changing nothing.
Yeah.
Find a better way. This isn't working. I kept on quoting.
Well, he can't kneel anymore because he's not in the NFL. But
maybe he can kneel at home while they play.
Yeah, you can kneel at home.
Anyone, it doesn't matter. It's like, unless you're going forward, unless you're making a progressive movement with what you've done, all you've done was dilute the issue.
No, yeah,
that's
absolutely.
It. That's all you've done with this is dilute the issue. You've not made it. The amount of progress you made is exactly jack squat.
Yeah.
I mean, and to be completely honest, you can protest all you want. See, and we talk about this all the time. He preaches this to me all the time about even when we talk religion. What do you always tell me? You have free what? Like he always tells me, he's like, you have a free choice to make. You can protest till you're black and blue. If that cop's actually a racist, you're not stopping him. He's going to do what he wants to do anyway, and that's the bottom line here. It's because we're people, and people are going to do stupid crap. And there's always, I've been told in the military my whole life, there's always going to be one. There's always going to be one, just like with millennials. There's always going to be one. And just like everything we talk about, there's always going to be the one that blacks your eye. And I mean, I openly admit I've had my troubles with the law in the past, but I take an approach where every one of them I deserved. I jacked up, I screwed up, and I deserved to be in that position. Now, could I take a position and say, well, I don't think I deserve to be that guy. I don't think I deserve to, maybe I shouldn't got it that bad. Or maybe, here's the thing, you're looking at a bunch of people and we're worried about OCD on thing. You're dealing with a bunch of cops every day that literally have to walk up to someone's window and worry about getting shot in the face.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And people forget that they do this every single day.
Yep.
And I don't like.
Oh, it's even worse than that sometimes is you being in the military, you're knowingly going into something. Right?
Correct.
That's the same way with cops. But think about the other end of the equation with the family members that have to say goodbye every morning and mean that goodbye.
I did a huge thing about it. I did a huge thing about it on 9/11, and I'm big on it. I say it all the time. First responders, cops, police, firefighters, EMTs, paramedics, people like that. People look at me and like service members and they're like, you're a hero. But here's the thing. When I look at them, I'm like, dude, I did what I did for the period of time that I did it. Mm-hmm. This is a lifestyle for these people.
Absolutely.
It is every damn day of their life. They get up and they bust theirs to save yours. And I have trouble. I understand that there's injustices in the world. I've seen a ton of them firsthand. Yeah. Here's where people fail to understand. I'm a white Caucasian male that lives in America that knows what it's like to be hated for the color of my skin, to be hated for the clothing I wear, the message I push, and the religion I believe. So if you can wrap your mind around that, and I know what it's like to be truly hated.
They're going to say it's nothing compared to...
Really? When was the last time somebody tried to blow you up on the way to work because of it?
Oh, no, you're talking about overseas. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about here in America.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I know what that feeling is to the core. Mm-hmm. I know what racism feels like. And people think just because I look like this, I can't grasp that concept. And that's so unbelievably wrong. And here's the problem. The people that understand what you're going through the most, they're the people you're squatting on.
Yeah, I kind of disagree with... Here's the thing. I can't... It's that whole author thing that I was talking about, right?
Yeah.
Which is, I refuse to allow someone to affect my mentality on things and get me so worked up over things that isn't actually hurting people physically. You know what I mean? Like, it's not really doing anything to those military members. And as a matter of fact, I would argue that you fought for their right to be assholes. You know what I mean? That they have...
And I think we fully understand.
And isn't it better to recognize those people than have them pretend to be something else? Wouldn't you rather know who they are?
We did fight for your freedom of speech as the military, and we totally understand that. And I think people are sitting there saying, and they're doing exactly what you just did there, and saying, well, you fought for me to do this. Do you think that was the ideal in our head when we were fighting? We were fighting for you to do something positive with that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, we're not
that's
sitting.
The hope. Yeah.
But that's what people say. Well, you fought for this. No, that's not what I fought for, because we fought for a positive ideal, not for an ideal in which you're not accomplishing anything. If you were accomplishing something with it, we'd be a lot more accepting of it. But you haven't accomplished crap.
Yeah, but that's a matter of perspective, because look at one story that we didn't cover this week. Was there was a naval cadet down at Annapolis. Did you see that story? He opened up his shirt for graduation pictures and had Che Guevara shirt on underneath that, and held his hat for a picture, and in the inner part of his hat it said communism will win in the end. You know what I mean? And now the military is looking into it and everything, but what do you think he's fighting for? He's fighting for the exact opposite of what you're fighting for. You know what I mean? So it's a matter of perspective.
Do you want me to tell you what I think that guy's doing right now? I'll tell you what that guy's going to be doing in a little bit.
He's in a lot of trouble.
He's not going to be fighting for anything.
No way.
You know what he's going to be fighting with? He'll be fighting with Kaepernick for the next Super Bowl ring on the sofa.
Well, to be honest with you, I think he's going to get his ass kicked in the military. If they even let him out of it. I mean, think of it. If they don't let him out, the people that surround him are not going to be the brothers in arms that he's hoping
and I think
for.
that's what people. I think that's what people don't understand, and that's a big thing. What you just said there. You know how you sit there and you say, well, this happens, this happens, this happens? Well, the people that are the red in that flag have a little bit of a different culture than you.
Yeah.
And that's what people fail to understand. Like, they sit there and they go, well, it's just cloth. But the culture that we come from, that cloth is everything. That cloth there is, it's God, country, core, family. And that's how our ideals are set up to us.
I think, honestly, you've been misunderstanding what I'm saying. That is the way it is for me, too. But if it's not that way for someone else, I can't change that for them.
You're right. And I said that to you.
know what I mean?
No, I said that before, and we say it all the time. I said the same thing about pushing religion, like it's just pointless. And I know we're not going to change that, but that doesn't. But I'm saying I feel like right now, just because we can't change it doesn't make it right.
Right. And your anger is not dismissed. But where does that anger get you?
At this point, it gets. See what we're doing here. This is positive.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
We're trying to work out. We have a solution. We're like time and place. Like you said, the Dallas thing. I quoted the exact same thing. I said that was classy.
Yep.
I'm okay with that. You
Are
know,
you an Eagles fan?
No, I'm a Cowboys fan.
Oh.
I'm an Eagles fan.
Yeah, he's an Eagles
At least
fan.
there's two smart people.
But right? Is that? But here's my thing.
No, I thought that was.
Ready?
They deserve so much
Stop.
respect for that.
Listen about this. What do we always say about the Dallas Cowboys? You're the
Don't
criminals.
even-
You're the thieves. You're the this. You're the that.
That's not what I hear. I always hear America's team.
Yeah, but that's what America's team is. The criminals, the thieves, all the stuff that they
that's
get.
the Ravens.
No, that's the murderers. The convicts, it was always the Cowboys. It was like your criminals, your thieves, Leon Lett, all the way back to everybody getting kicked out. It was a bunch of criminals when we were calling them America's team. Turns out America's team did the right thing. You know why?
It's because the owner.
Yeah. Well, it's also because the players sat there and
So
said.
now that's another thing that you bring up right there. Did you guys see the meme floating around before this past weekend where there was a quote from Jerry Jones saying that if anyone ever kneels on his team or anything like that, they're off of his field.
Yeah.
Or something like. Apparently he never said that.
Yeah, but he's an avid, open Trump supporter.
Was there a mouse?
Yeah.
Something. Man, I was like, good thing I didn't bring the gun today.
I got a couple.
I'm sitting there looking at it going, I'm going to practice my Second Amendment too while I was at it.
Good, you were saying about that.
No, he's an open Trump supporter, so,
Yeah.
that helps.
Well, so is Belichick and stuff too. I mean, there's some that are just flat out.
I don't think there's any Patriots, Neil, was there?
No, not at all.
No.
Whole team.
No,
No, the Patriots. Yeah, there's that one going around with them all sitting during the national anthem and the cop behind them saluting, and it says "Real Patriot."
Brady wasn't sitting. No way.
There was a good amount of them down this sundown.
Maybe I didn't
That's
know.
why I said this weekend in sports has been the most disgusting and perverted weekend of sports I've ever seen in my life.
A lot of people.
It sent me irate.
And not only that, you're starting to see a lot of the players that did kneel lose endorsements too.
And rightfully should.
Yep.
Because nobody
That's
was
their right. That's the company's right.
To be completely honest,
I think it's just going all over the place.
You don't worry me. I'll eat you. But I mean, at the end of the day, let's look at it from the perspective of we saw the glimpses of the Green Bay game last night, right? Now that
I didn't get to watch it, but yeah,
it's just a glimpse. Like I saw it on Sports Center. Like, and obviously it's a hot topic right now. But I watched at it, and they showed the fans. They showed the fans, not the players, the fans. But at the end of the day, the people who pay your salary think you're a bunch of a-holes for what you did. Because you watch that, the vast majority of them. Vast majority.
Yeah. So,
and you don't see anybody burning Cowboys gear.
This is why it's a confusing topic, right? Because again, Kaepernick and the NFL teams are protesting completely different things, right? The military aside, the past weekend was a direct slap at a dictatorish mentality from Trump, right? And it was just to prove a point. It'll be interesting to see in the next 2 days what happens. I don't think that there's going to be any more kneeling. I think it was just a sign of protest against the president. I think it might be done after this week. I think they took advantage on the Monday night game because, or Thursday?
Monday.
Well, when was the Packers last
Oh,
night?
yeah, that.
So, I guess that was considered still part of last week, possibly. I don't know.
Who cares?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to go on. I don't. And I hope it doesn't.
It can't.
Yeah.
Because you will have no...
And Kaepernick's gone, so we don't have to worry about him anymore either.
It's like people are trying to carry on this, like... It's like they're doing this, like... carry on this, like... Whatever it is, moral code that he...
But they're not. This was against Trump. That's
no,
what I'm trying to
I know
say.
now, but I'm saying the select few we had before that, they kept doing it. It didn't stop people like Brandon Marshall. It didn't stop people like, you know...
It was actually in, like, high school sports, too. People started doing
but
it.
It's because it's a catchy thing, but nobody knows what they're doing it for.
Nope.
And then here's the thing. The Trump thing comes up, and, like, the creative thinkers they are, they're like, you know what we should do? What'd that guy do that doesn't play football anymore? What's his name? Colin Kaepernick. Yeah, let's do what he did. Let's do what he did.
The funniest thing is it might have been Ben Shapiro or something.
Not do anything
like that.
progressive.
There was a guy, a vet. Yeah, it was a vet. Oh, so this is interesting. Yeah, it was a vet. Trump's motorcade was going down the road, and this vet with a flag over his back knelt down on the sidewalk as he passed by. And one of the conservative commentators said, well, liberals have just fallen for Trump's trap. He's getting them to kneel before them. If you really wanted to protest what you thought was a dictator, now you're kneeling in front of him. And you've fallen directly for what he wanted you to do in the first place.
I don't know. I just think there's so much better, like more progressive things we could be doing than what we are.
Can we agree that
No.
there are injustices in America for the black community?
I think we can agree there's injustices in America, period.
Yeah, absolutely. So
that's right. What you did right there, I can't stand that because it's not a color thing.
No, it's not.
I'm going to wipe that right now because no, I will not agree to that. It's not a color thing. And I brought this up the other day. Morgan Freeman said it best. You have the same opportunity that everybody else does. This isn't 1942 anymore. Were there injustices in America? Yes. All right. Obviously, that's why we had the civil rights movement. All right. But now. You have the same opportunity we do. You know how I know that? Because you listen to every NFL player's story, and where do they come from? Nothing.
Yeah.
And you're making more than 99% of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I struggle to see that.
But we also can agree that there should be necessary steps taken to advance better training, I think you said, in the police departments. And that's something I've actually talked to police officers about. Actually, one of the firearms instructors for the police academy here in the Lehigh Valley, I've talked to him, and he said that's directly where the money needs to be spent, is the training on police officers on when to pull the trigger and how to read situations and circumstances, right? So I think we can agree to the general statement and protest of whatever it is, not how he did it, but let's go to that then. You said anywhere else, time and place, not there. So the question, I hate to put you on the spot, but Trevor Noah kind of made an ass out of Tomi Lahren because, like I said, she was the conservative darling.
I'll hit it for you right now. The people that from these inner city places, from the inner cities and things, they wanted to see a black president. What did they do?
I understand that. We throw that out all the time.
We throw it out right now because the person who started this had the monetary funds to create a situation where he could start a rally, where he could do something peaceful, where he didn't have to take a knee on other people's feelings. He could get his people together. He could make a difference. You could create a program. Who are we talking about? Kaepernick.
Okay.
You had the money when you started this.
Yeah.
You had the money to do that. If I had that financial backing of making $19 million a year.
1/19 of it would accomplish a hell of a lot.
I'm pretty sure I could get it done in a more productive manner than popping a squat on other people at the end of the day. I can push my message in a positive, forward, unifying manner. You want to protest? Please, by all means. But like I said, time and place. Start it. Go ahead. Start an active protest because that's what that thing is.
I'm arguing with myself here because on one hand, before you even respond to it, I'm thinking to myself, he wants to use the spotlight that he has to push that
You're still a pro football player.
But at the same time, I'm watching the Academy Awards and stuff like that, and they're ranting on political messages there, and you're like, shut the hell up.
You're still,
you're stealing a spotlight that's not meant for that.
At the end of the day, you're still a pro football player. Mm-hmm. You still have that spotlight doesn't leave when you leave that field. You're still the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers.
I mean, honestly,
how often do I hear about him? A lot more now that he screwed up.
yeah, absolutely.
And it's never a positive thing.
I don't hear of anything. There's one. Unless you like Benjamin Watson,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
awesome guy. Mm-hmm. Like, talk about a role model. Like, that's the one thing I've always hated about athletes and stuff is how people like see them as role models, because that's their job is to play a sport. It's not really that much, but people like Benjamin Watson, like on and off the field, pushing some really good moral values and stuff like that and principles. That's a good example of an actual role
Look
model.
at Jason Witten. Mm-hmm. You're Eagles fans. You can't hate that man.
No, I don't.
All right, here's another one.
I don't hate the.
You know what I mean. But here's the thing. Like here's the
big.
Jerry
Jones looks like death, but whatever.
He does. We've been wanting him to die for a while too. Unfortunately, he's been killing us.
Even worse than him is what's his name with the Giants. Oh my gosh, he is like a beady-eyed crow.
But I mean, I'm gonna put it out there right now. We've watched a lot of athletes do a lot of things and take a lot of stances. But here, let's talk about somebody who doesn't draw any attention to himself and lets his body fork to it. J.J. Watt just raised $25 million.
Awesome. Yep. I think it was more than that.
At the time when I heard it, I think that was like a week ago. It's probably obviously still coming.
Yeah,
but he just
Houston.
$25 million.
Himself.
How?
Twitter.
Because he is still a professional athlete, and he's a respected professional athlete. So when you say that, when you look at me and you say, no, that spotlight leaves, $25 million left?
Yep.
That man made $25 million by himself on Twitter because he's a decent dude. Fundraising. So here, what did he want to do? Progressively, properly, and respectfully get his message across that we need help for these people.
It's a good example that you brought up there.
And he did it.
Yep.
And he did it without squatting on anyone. He did it by just being real, by being genuinely engaged
it was a cause.
and concerned, and he had a cause. What's the difference between his cause and Kaepernick's cause? And why can he do his in such a positive manner, and he has to do his in such a negative manner towards a group of people? Because here's what happened. J.J. Watt said these people need help, and I'm pretty sure nobody who donated that gave a crap what color those people wore.
Oh, no, absolutely not. Actually, and as a matter of fact, there's one thing I brought up is that we had weeks where the spotlight of America was on Charlottesville. Mm-hmm. And we had this national conversation of what the heck is going to happen in our country. Like, this is a divide that has a chasm that has opened up, that how are we going to heal as a nation from this type of thing, And then all of a sudden Houston happens with the hurricane.
What else did
and
that?
People all over the country started coming down and working together with the Americans.
What else did that?
Oh, 9/11.
9/11.
Yeah.
And that's funny. Like that's why I laugh sometimes when people say it's an inside job. I'm like, yeah, well, inside job or not, there's still 2,978 people dead, and it still brought a nation together.
Yep.
And that's a positive in such a horrible outlook.
Unfortunately, human nature doesn't allow us to keep that relationship going. For too long.
And I think that's where this ends, is the fact that we need to learn. At the end of the day, with every topic talked about, we need to learn how to continue healing. Mm-hmm. Instead of tearing open the wound again.
Yep.
And that's what we do here.
I think we're just about to run out of time, so I'm going to give you the last word on this then.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree with most of what Austin's saying as far as, I think J.J. Watt was a good point. I mean, you have an opportunity to really, with a platform and the monetary wealth, to really make a difference for your community, or the police brutality, and do something more beneficial with tangible results than how he chose to do it. And if it was 20 years ago, and it was actually kind of smart on his end, because he knew that the social media would run with it. But if it was 20 years ago and no social media, would he care enough to kneel for the national anthem? Probably not.
No.
And I think that speaks. I think if it was just 20 years ago and this message wouldn't have been pushed, he wouldn't be kneeling.
Well, 20 years ago, the situation that he's protesting was a lot worse, too.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what he's saying. I mean, you would have been out doing the fundraising thing or trying to figure out some way rather than just taking a knee. I mean, let's just put the J.J. Watt thing. I just want to put one last thing on that. I want everybody to remember that Houston is primarily minority, and J.J. Watt is a white country boy bumpkin from Iowa. Show me the racism in that. It's not there.
All right, so we actually had some comments here from Matt, who's been on the podcast before.
Wonderful.
He said that, the Patriots players did kneel, which I think we accomplished that. He said the Jackie Robinson quote is from 1972. Black people have made millions before, but it didn't change how we were treated. He said, I don't know what he was saying about no, you couldn't, but the point was on this, there's no such thing as a comfortable protest, which is true. And he said something about Ask Tommy Smith and John Carlos. I'm not a big sports fan, so I don't know who they are.
I think he's probably referring to Stanton.
So,
all
right.
I think that's the beauty of it. You can disagree.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the beauty of it. I mean, you're
you got some fire in your eyes looking over at me. So.
I've been fighting it for a week now. It's like, yeah, all right. It's one thing when you can see another person's point of view. It's another thing when Rick and that's the thing. Like, you're just going to keep throwing punches. What was the last thing we said? What the last thing I said? You got to learn to heal and not keep tearing it back open. And if you're going to keep tearing it back open, you're going to continue to have it.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line. If you can't stop and clot that bleeding, you will continue to have it. Every time we start to heal a little bit, somebody come in like with it, and it's like, okay, let's start over. And that's the key. The key is to just be able to heal as one. Like, be one. Don't sit here and just keep tearing at each other. We peck at each other.
Matt says it was never healed.
Never is. I mean, I don't know. Here's the thing. I don't know how to atone. I can't atone for the past. I can't do it in my own life. The only thing I can do is be a better person going forward. Mm-hmm. And unless you're going to apply that morality to yourself and society, if you want the society to be going better forward, you have to be able to forgive the past. And I say this all the time. I'm Irish. I don't bring up gangs in New York every time. We were beat down. We were crumbled. We got our crap kicked out of us at one point in life too. It happens. It happens.
I think that you make a good point combined with my previous point in my statement, which is the only thing that we can do is move forward with a better mentality and better treatment, right? Mm-hmm. But in regards to the other side of the equation, you can't keep on saying you're allowing, it's the book, it's the author of the book, right? Mm-hmm. You can't allow other people to be the author of what you have going on in your life.
Absolutely.
You know, God is the author of your life and gives you a certain amount of creative control as an author to make some choices. And if you hand over that pen to someone else and tell them that they're responsible now for what's going on in your life, it's no longer your biography or whatever.
That's the struggle right here. Like, I mean, reality is 99% perception. We say that all the time. And the problem is we can sit here and speak all the rationale in the world. At the end of the day, this is three white guys sitting at a table.
Well, and the invitation was open.
Correct. But that's what I'm saying. At the end of the day, because of what comes out of someone's mouth, you're immediately, and that's what's gone wrong in America, mm-hmm. that having a view that opposes somebody else automatically makes you a bigot or a racist or something like that.
We're opposing that view either.
Yeah, no, we're supporting you as much as we're supporting a societal cause to unify and become one. But the only thing being said at this table is flat out. It's like, if you want change, you got to be willing to change yourself to meet in the middle. Yep. There has to be a median moment right there. But if you're going to stay angry and expect somebody else to come chase you down, don't stay angry. Come meet in the middle and say, yo, that's what you want to protest. You want to talk about it. You want to get things done. Here's the middle ground. Let's come talk. Let's come to the table. Let's have a conversation. At the end of the day, it can't all be about the color of your skin. It has to be about what's inside. Y'all bleed red. You know, everybody bleeds red. And that's where I get a little bit confused.
Matt's fired up.
Good.
He said the thought that 400 years of racism is changed in 50 years is insane. Yeah, agreed. He also said, I still haven't heard a solution to a better way. You can't. Well, then if you think that 400 years of racism changing in 50 years is insane, then how do you expect things to change overnight too?
Well, and that's what I said. And I made that point to him, Matt. I made that point to you. I said, I think, don't you bring up the whole Jackie Robinson thing. I think he's looking down saying, well, you've made substantial progress since this point.
I would hope so.
You guys are moving forward. And like with every moving forward, there's going to be times where things slow down or you have problems with it or you don't agree with how it's done. It's a trial and error period. You know what I mean? Like you're sitting there, you're trying to say, okay, what works? How are we going to get this to where it needs to be? You know what I mean? If you're going to sit there and tell me the first time you went out, you scored 40 points in a basketball game, I'm going to tell you, you're probably full of crap. It's a skill that's honed and earned just like anything else in life. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to sit here and it's called, what do they call it? It's basically, it's like birthing pains, you know what I mean? Like there's going to be little hurts and there's going to be little dings in there, but that can't dictate the outcome. Like just because there's a ding in a car doesn't mean the engine stops working. Doesn't mean it stops going forward. There has to be some kind of give and take in that relationship. You know what I mean? And it's gonna go back. I mean, I understand people are gonna want to go back to the constant, the past thing, but I don't know how living in the past promotes a better future. How does living the past? We're repeating it then.
Look, it's a little bit of both. Okay, you have to recognize the past to learn from it, right? But you can't dwell on the past to move forward into the future.
And I'm 100% on that. And it's not like I don't think anybody here is discrediting what like Matt and his ancestors have been through. But I don't know how to explain to you. My people didn't come here till 1930. Why are you laying it on me?
I'm later than that.
Like that's what I'm saying. Like my people.
Yeah, it's like, don't say my people.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm being very serious
with
about that because that puts up a wall.
Correct.
For whoever is saying it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It does.
You're 100% correct. No, you're 100% correct on that. Yeah, I mean, and you're 100% correct in saying that. My people is a horrible term, but the thing, like that's the thing. When you're sitting there and you're touching a topic like racism, and it's something it's that intertwined. When I say my people, I'm saying my personal family,
right?
Me, not my people as this. My family. I don't know. Sorry. Like, I mean, we weren't even here to sit here and say, don't do that. Like, I didn't even have a say in the statement at the end of the day. Yep. Nobody in my lineage had a say to sit there and say, that's wrong. Yep. You know what I'm saying?
Well, listen, we've run out of time. Okay?
Shocking.
And Matt keeps on going here with statements and everything, and not that I don't respect him, but he's welcome to come on here anytime and have the discussion. I can't keep on just responding to comments. Yep. So, again, I appreciate everybody tuning in tonight, especially for the guests coming out and everything. Again, why don't you promote your stuff real quick again before I go into
it's just real simple. It's just go check out SquareUpLineup. We're going to give you a real raw perspective on what things are. All right, you see me, I don't hold any punches, and I pride myself on that at the end of the day. The thing is, whatever comes out of my mouth, we try to make it there so that it doesn't come out necessarily disrespectful, but passionate. All right, so if it hurts you, well, you know what I mean? Like, if it hurts you, I can't please everyone, and I'm well aware of that, but I'm going to do the best I can to give you real raw, the way it is. This is how we're going to do it type thing.
Okay. Again, if you are tuning in for the first time, you can find me on social media, on Facebook by searching for the Generation Y Conservative. You can also find me on YouTube by searching for the Generation Y Conservative. I encourage you to like and share and subscribe to those two means of communication. You can also follow me on Twitter at Gen Y Conservative without the E on the end. You can also find this podcast re-aired on Sundays on KLRN Internet Radio from 3 to 6 p.m. You can also find this audio portion of the podcast on their iTunes account as well. All you have to do is search for the Generation Y Conservative, no matter where you are, on whatever platform, those stuff will come up if you're on any of those platforms. Interesting night, yeah. taking a breath. So in the meantime, I'll catch you guys next week for next week's podcast. Have a great night, and God bless America.